The general collapsed between the canned soup and breakfast cereal, his body hitting the supermarket floor with a sickening thud that echoed through aisle 7. Metals clattered across linoleum, his chest didn't rise. Shoppers froze, phones lifted, recording. No one moved, no one helped. Just watched, filmed, waited for someone else to do something. Then she appeared, a woman in wrinkled blue scrubs, exhausted eyes, discount sneakers held together with glue. She dropped to her knees without hesitation, positioned her hands over his sternum, and began compressions with machine-like precision. But it was what she whispered that shattered everything. "Stay with me, Marine." Not sir, not Mr. Marine. Why would a random nurse know that? Why would she speak like someone who'd seen combat? And why? After saving a decorated war hero's life in front of 50 witnesses, did she vanish before anyone could even ask her name? Before we begin this story, I need you to do something for me. Stay until the very end, because what you're about to hear isn't just about one nurse or one general. It's about the people we walk past every single day without seeing, the ones society overlooks. The heroes hiding in plain sight. If this story moves you, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this truth can travel. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Lena Ward hadn't slept in 29 hours. Her shift at Mercy Grove Hospital had bled into a second without pause. 3 codes, 2 traumas, 1 violent psychiatric hold that left bruises on her forearms she'd cover with long sleeves tomorrow. Her scrubs smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. Her feet screamed inside shoes she'd been meaning to replace for 6 months. The grocery store was supposed to be quick. Milk, bread, something her daughter Maya could eat before school. 15 minutes, maybe 20. Then home. Then collapse. She pushed her cart down aisle 7, scanning shelves on autopilot. Pasta, sauce, cereal. Her phone buzzed. Another shift offer. Night rotation. Double rate. She'd take it. She always did. Maya needed new textbooks. The landlord had raised rent again. There was no choice but yes. That's when she heard it. A gasp. Sharp. Panicked. Then the sound of something heavy hitting the floor. Lena's head snapped up. 20 feet away, an older man lay crumpled between shopping carts, his face gray, his body motionless. People backed away instinctively, creating a circle of space around him like he was contagious. Someone screamed. Someone else pulled out a phone. No one touched him. Lena didn't think. She moved. Her cart crashed into a display of canned beans as she sprinted forward, dropping to her knees beside the man. She pressed 2 fingers to his carotid artery. Nothing. She leaned close, cheek near his mouth. No breath. His lips were already tinged blue. "Call 911, she barked at the crowd. No one responded. They just stared, filmed. "Now!" A teenager stammered something and fumbled with his phone. Lena tilted the man's head back, checked his airway, then locked her hands over his sternum and began compressions. Hard, fast, 120 per minute. She counted silently, her body taking over, muscle memory from another life surfacing without permission. Her mind registered details in flashes. His age, mid-60s, strong build despite the gray hair. Expensive watch, pressed slacks, and on his chest, beneath his polo shirt, the unmistakable outline of a chain. Dog tags. Her jaw tightened. "Stay with me, Marine," she whispered. Too quiet for anyone to hear, or so she thought. 30 compressions. She tilted his head again, sealed her mouth over his, and delivered 2 rescue breaths. His chest rose. Good. She went back to compressions. Her arms burned. Sweat dripped into her eyes. Around her the crowd murmured, whispers, camera clicks. The low hum of strangers deciding whether this was tragedy or entertainment. Is he dead? Someone should do something. Who is she? Lena ignored them. She kept going. 30 more. 2 breaths. 30 more. The man's color hadn't changed. No pulse. No response. But she didn't stop. Couldn't. She'd lost count of how many times she'd done this, in tents, in dust storms, under gunfire. She'd brought people back from worse. Come on. Come on. Suddenly the man's body jerked. A wet, choking cough rattled from his throat. His eyes fluttered open, confused, wild, searching. Lena immediately turned him onto his side, supporting his head as he coughed again, gasping for air like a drowning man breaking the surface. "You're okay," she said firmly, her hand steady on his shoulder. "You're breathing. Help is coming. Stay still." The man's eyes locked onto hers. For a moment, something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Or disbelief. He tried to speak, but his voice came out as a rasp. "Who are you?" Lena didn't answer. She heard sirens in the distance, growing louder. The paramedics would take over. Her part was done. She rose to her feet, ignoring the ache in her knees, the tremor in her hands. Around her, the crowd finally moved, closing in, asking questions, reaching for her. "Wait, are you a doctor? What's your name? Can we get a statement?" Lena shook her head, already backing away. She didn't do crowds, didn't do attention, didn't need thanks. She'd done what needed doing. That was enough. "Miss, please, the ambulance." "You've got him," Lena said, nodding toward the man on the floor. "He'll be fine." She turned and walked away before anyone could stop her, before anyone could ask why she knew what to do, before anyone could ask why a nurse at a civilian hospital moved like someone trained for war. She left her cart behind, left the milk, the bread, the groceries. She just walked out into the parking lot, climbed into her 12-year-old sedan, and drove home in silence. She didn't know the man's name, didn't care. It wasn't about him. It was never about them. It was about the job, the oath, the thing inside her that refused to let someone die when she could stop it, even if no one ever knew. Ethan Caldwell woke up 3 days later in a private room at Mercy Grove Hospital. The first thing he saw was his son's face, pale, hollow-eyed, hovering over him like he'd seen a ghost. The second thing he noticed was the IV in his arm, the monitors beeping beside him, and the dull ache radiating through his chest. "Dad," his son's voice cracked. "Don't move. You had a cardiac arrest. They said—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "They said you were dead. Clinically dead. For almost 4 minutes." Ethan blinked, his mind sluggish, trying to piece together fragments. Supermarket, pain in his chest. The floor, darkness. Then, a voice. "Stay with me, Marine." He frowned. "Who brought me back?" His son hesitated. "A nurse. Some woman in the store. She did CPR until the paramedics arrived." "What woman?" "I don't know. She left before anyone got her information. The paramedics said she saved your life." Ethan's frown deepened. "Find her." "Dad, you need to rest." "Find her." His son sighed, recognizing the tone, the one that didn't negotiate. "I'll try." But trying wasn't good enough. Over the next 72 hours, as Ethan recovered in his hospital bed, he became obsessed. He demanded footage from the grocery store. He sent his son to interview witnesses. He called in favors from people who owed him, cops, military contacts, anyone with access to anything. What they found only made it worse. The security footage was grainy but clear enough. The woman appeared out of nowhere, moved with absolute confidence, performed textbook battlefield trauma response, and then disappeared into the parking lot before the ambulance even arrived. No one got her license plate. No one got her name. But several witnesses remembered one strange detail. She'd called him Marine, not Sir, not Mr. Marine. Ethan sat in his hospital bed, staring at the frozen frame of the woman on his tablet. Her face was turned away from the camera, but her posture, her movements, they were unmistakable. That wasn't civilian first aid. That was combat medicine. Practiced, drilled, instinctive. "Who the hell are you?" he muttered. His son knocked lightly on the doorframe. "I have something." Ethan looked up sharply. "One of the paramedics recognized her," his son continued. "She works here, night shift, ER nurse." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Name?" "Lena Ward." Set. Lena was wiping down a gurney when her supervisor appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, lips pursed in that way that meant trouble. "Ward." Lena didn't look up. "I'm busy. There's someone here asking for you. Tell them I'm off in 2 hours." "It's not a patient. It's General Caldwell." Lena's hands stilled. She straightened slowly, meeting her supervisor's gaze. Who? The man you saved at the grocery store. Ethan Caldwell, 4-star general, retired. He's been looking for you. Lena's stomach dropped. She kept her face neutral. I was off duty. I'm not giving a statement. He doesn't want a statement. He wants to thank you. I don't need thanks. Ward. Her supervisor's tone sharpened. He's a decorated war hero. The hospital administrator wants you to meet with him. It's good PR. Lena's jaw tightened. PR. Of course. Not because she'd saved a life. Because it looked good. Made the hospital look good. Made her useful. I'm working. You're going. That's not a request. Lena stared at her supervisor for a long moment, then set down the disinfectant spray and pulled off her gloves. Fine. 5 minutes. Shake his hand. Accept his thanks. Move on. She followed her supervisor down 2 hallways, up an elevator, and into the VIP wing, a section of the hospital she rarely saw. Quieter, cleaner, better lighting. The supervisor stopped outside room 412 and gestured. 5 minutes, Lena said flatly. She pushed open the door. The man inside looked better than he had on the grocery store floor, but not by much. His color had returned, but he still looked weak, propped up against pillows with an IV line snaking into his arm. But his eyes were sharp, alert, assessing. He studied her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. You're Lena Ward. It wasn't a question. I am, Lena said carefully. She stayed near the door. Your son said you wanted to thank me. You're welcome. Glad you're okay. She turned to leave. Stay with me, Marine. Lena froze. She didn't turn around, didn't breathe. The words hung in the air like smoke. That's what you said, Ethan continued, his voice quiet but deliberate. When I was dying, you leaned over me and said, stay with me, Marine. Why would a civilian nurse say that? Lena's pulse hammered in her ears. Slowly, she turned back to face him. I don't remember what I said. I was focused on keeping you alive. You remember. I don't. You do. Ethan leaned forward slightly, ignoring the pull of the IV. Because that's not something someone says by accident. That's what combat medics say. Trained ones. The ones who've seen people die and dragged them back anyway. Lena's expression didn't change. I work in an ER. I see people die every week. Not like that. Ethan's eyes didn't leave hers. I spent 40 years in the military, Miss Ward. I know the difference between a civilian who took a CPR class and someone who's performed trauma medicine under fire. You didn't panic. You didn't hesitate. You moved like someone who's done it 100 times, in bad places. Lena said nothing. Ethan tilted his head. So I'll ask again, who are you? A nurse. Bullshit. The word landed hard. Lena's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice level. General, I'm glad I could help, but I have patients waiting. If there's nothing else, there is. Ethan gestured to the chair beside his bed. Sit. I'd rather stand. I'd rather you sit. They stared at each other, 2 immovable objects locked in silent confrontation. Finally, Lena moved to the chair and sat stiffly, arms crossed. Ethan nodded. Thank you. Now, I had someone pull your employment records. You've been at Mercy Grove for 6 years. Night shift ER. Overworked, underpaid, consistently overlooked for promotions despite having one of the highest patient survival rates in the department. Lena's eyes narrowed. You had no right. I also had someone check your background. Ethan's voice softened slightly. Lena Marie Ward, age 38, single mother, 1 daughter, age 14. You live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Crestwood. You work 60-hour weeks and pick up extra shifts whenever you can. You're drowning in bills and you never complain. Is there a point to this? Lena's voice was ice. Yes. Ethan leaned back against his pillows. Because your records also show something else. A gap. 7 years between age 20 and 27 where there's no work history, no school, nothing. Just blank. Lena's hands curled into fists in her lap. So I dug deeper, Ethan continued, and I found it. Lena Ward, Army combat medic, deployed twice, Iraq, Afghanistan, honorable discharge, decorated. Then, nothing. Like you vanished. The silence between them stretched thin and brittle. Why did you leave? Ethan asked quietly. Lena stood abruptly. Because I had a daughter. And the military doesn't care about single mothers who can't deploy anymore. So I left. I came home. I got a job. I moved on. End of story. That's not the end. It is for me. Lena turned toward the door. Enjoy your recovery, General. They shouldn't have let you disappear. Lena stopped. She didn't turn around. You saved lives, Ethan said. Real lives. Under fire, under pressure. You did things most people can't even imagine. And then you came home and got stuck in a system that treats you like you're disposable. Lena's shoulders tensed. That's not right, Ethan said. Life's not fair, Lena replied quietly. You should know that better than anyone. She walked out before he could say another word. Lena made it halfway down the hall before her supervisor intercepted her again. Well? We talked, Lena said shortly. He's fine. I'm going back to work. The administrator wants to see you. Lena stopped. Why? Because apparently General Caldwell made a donation to the hospital, a big one, and he specifically requested that you be recognized in some official capacity. Lena's stomach sank. I don't want recognition. Too bad, you're getting it. Her supervisor's smile didn't reach her eyes. Try to look grateful, Ward. Some of us have been here 10 years without getting this kind of attention. Lena bit back the response, clawing up her throat, and nodded stiffly. Fine. But it wasn't fine. Because attention meant questions. Questions meant scrutiny. Scrutiny meant people digging into who she used to be. And she'd spent 6 years burying that woman. She couldn't afford to let her come back. Ethan Caldwell was many things, but patient wasn't one of them. 3 days after Lena walked out of his hospital room, he made a phone call. Then another. Then 10 more. He pulled strings he hadn't touched in years, called in favors from people who still owed him, and activated a network that most civilians didn't know existed. By the end of the week, he had a file. A complete file. Lena Marie Ward, born in Ohio, enlisted at 19, scored top of her class in combat medic training, deployed to Ramadi at 21, saved 17 lives in 6 months, volunteered for a second tour, deployed to Helmand Province at 24, embedded with a Marine unit, took shrapnel in an ambush but refused evacuation until every wounded soldier was stabilized. She'd been recommended for a Bronze Star. It was never processed. Ethan's jaw tightened as he read further. Lena had gotten pregnant during her second deployment, against regulations, but not uncommon. She'd been quietly shuffled out, honorably discharged, sent home. No ceremony, no recognition, no follow-up, just gone. And now she was wiping down hospital gurneys for $16 an hour. Ethan closed the file and stared at the ceiling of his study. His chest still ached where she'd brought him back from the edge. He owed her his life. But this wasn't about debt. This was about something bigger. This was about justice. He picked up his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in 5 years. Colonel Hayes, it's Caldwell. I need a favor. Lena got the letter on a Tuesday. It came in a plain white envelope, no return address, delivered to the hospital admin office with her name typed neatly on the front. Her supervisor handed it to her without comment, already moving on to the next crisis. Lena opened it in the break room, alone. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Embossed letterhead, Department of Defense. Her blood ran cold. Miss Ward, you are hereby invited to attend a military recognition ceremony on November 14th at the National Memorial Hall in Bell Ridge. Your presence is requested to honor service members who have demonstrated exceptional courage and sacrifice in the line of duty. Attendance is optional, but encouraged. Respectfully, Brigadier General Marcus Hayes, U.S. Army Medical Command. Lena read it 3 times. Then she folded it carefully, slid it back into the envelope, and threw it in the trash. She wasn't going. She'd left that life behind. She wasn't a soldier anymore. She was just a nurse, just a mother, just someone trying to survive. But as she walked back out onto the floor, past the patients and the chaos and the endless tide of suffering, something gnawed at her. Your presence is requested. Requested, not ordered, but still. She shook her head and grabbed the next chart. It didn't matter. She wasn't going. Except she did. November 14th arrived cold and gray. Lena stood in front of her bathroom mirror, staring at her reflection. She'd pulled her hair back into a tight bun, muscle memory. She'd found an old blazer in the back of her closet, wrinkled but passable. Maya had asked why she was dressed up. Work thing, Lena had lied. Now standing outside the National Memorial Hall, surrounded by uniforms and medals and flags, she felt like an imposter. She didn't belong here. Not anymore. She turned to leave. "Miss Ward." She stopped. Turned. A young officer approached, crisp and polite. "General Caldwell asked me to escort you inside." Lena's stomach dropped. "He's here?" "Yes, ma'am. This way, please." She didn't have a choice. She followed him through the grand entrance, past rows of seated attendees, veterans, active duty, families. The hall was massive, lined with portraits of generals and battle flags. At the front, a stage, a podium, microphones. The officer led her to a seat in the third row, front and center. Lena sat stiffly, heart pounding. Around her, people chatted quietly. She recognized no one. Then the lights dimmed. A voice boomed over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for General Ethan Caldwell." The crowd stood as one. Ethan walked onto the stage, still slower than usual, still recovering, but steady. Commanding. He took the podium, adjusted the microphone, and looked directly at Lena. She felt the floor drop out from under her. "Thank you all for being here," Ethan began, his voice carrying effortlessly through the hall. "Today we honor those who serve, those who sacrifice, and those who do both, without ever asking for recognition." He paused. 3 weeks ago, I died." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Cardiac arrest, in a grocery store, surrounded by people, and no one helped. No one moved, except one woman. His eyes never left Lena. "Her name is Lena Ward, and she saved my life." The crowd turned. Dozens of eyes landed on her. Lena couldn't breathe. Ethan continued, "But here's what you don't know. Lena Ward isn't just a nurse. She's a former Army combat medic. She deployed twice. She saved 17 lives under fire. She took shrapnel protecting Marines. She was recommended for a Bronze Star. That was never awarded." The hall went silent. "She came home," Ethan said quietly. "And no one thanked her. No one honored her. She disappeared into a system that forgot she existed. And for 6 years she's worked night shifts, underpaid and overlooked, saving lives no one will ever know about." He reached into his jacket. "That ends today." Ethan pulled out a small wooden box. He opened it carefully. Inside was a medal, gold and crimson, gleaming under the stage lights. The Bronze Star. Lena's vision blurred. "Lena Ward," Ethan said, his voice firm. "Come up here." She couldn't move. Her legs wouldn't work. The officer beside her gently touched her elbow. "Ma'am." Somehow she stood. Somehow she walked. The aisle stretched forever. The crowd blurred. She climbed the steps to the stage, her hands shaking. Ethan stood waiting. He lifted the medal from the box. "You didn't stop being a soldier," he said softly, just loud enough for her to hear. "You just changed uniforms." He placed the medal around her neck. The hall erupted. Applause thundered. Veterans stood. Soldiers saluted. And Lena Ward, overlooked, undervalued, forgotten, stood frozen as the world finally saw her. For the first time in 6 years, she couldn't hide. But the applause didn't stop. It grew louder. Faces in the crowd weren't just clapping. They were shouting, cheering. Some were crying. And at the back of the hall, someone raised a phone. Someone else did the same. Within minutes, the footage was live. Within an hour, it was everywhere. The woman no one had noticed was about to become the person no one could ignore. And the people who had dismissed her for years, they were about to learn what happens when you overlook a hero. The video hit 2 million views before Lena even left the building. She stood backstage in the narrow corridor behind the memorial hall, the Bronze Star heavy against her chest, her hands still trembling. Through the walls she could hear the crowd, still applauding, still shouting, a sound that felt less like celebration and more like an avalanche bearing down on her. Ethan had disappeared into a side room with military officials, leaving her alone with a young corporal who kept glancing at his phone and grinning. "Ma'am, you're trending," he said, turning the screen toward her. Lena didn't want to look, but she did. The footage was everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Dozens of angles, some from official cameras, others from phones in the crowd. The moment Ethan placed the medal around her neck. The moment she froze. The moment the hall erupted, and beneath every post, thousands of comments scrolling faster than she could read. This is what a hero looks like. Why didn't anyone know about her? The military failed her. She deserves more than a medal. Find out where she works. Support her. Lena's stomach twisted. She handed the phone back and walked toward the exit without a word. The corporal called after her, but she didn't stop. She pushed through the back doors into the cold November air and kept walking until she reached her car. She climbed inside, locked the doors, and sat in silence. Her phone buzzed. Once, twice, 10 times, 20. She turned it off. Then she drove home. Toot. Maya was waiting on the apartment steps when Lena pulled into the lot. Her daughter stood quickly, arms crossed, confusion and worry painted across her face. "Mom, where were you? You said you'd be home by 5. It's almost 8. Lena locked the car and walked toward her, forcing her expression into something neutral. "Work thing ran late." "You're lying." Lena stopped. Maya's eyes, dark and sharp, too perceptive for 14, narrowed. "You never dress like that for work," Maya continued. "And your phone's off. You never turn your phone off." Lena climbed the steps and unlocked the apartment door. "Inside. Now." Maya followed, silent but radiating suspicion. Lena dropped her keys on the counter, shrugged off the blazer, and started making tea she didn't want just to have something to do with her hands. Maya sat at the tiny kitchen table watching her. "Mom, I'm fine." "You're not." Maya's voice softened. "What happened?" Lena poured hot water over a tea bag, staring at the steam. She could lie. Should lie. Keep Maya out of this. But her daughter was too smart for that. Too stubborn. She'd find out eventually. She turned and leaned against the counter. "Someone gave me an award for something I did a long time ago." Maya frowned. "What kind of award?" "Military." The confusion on Maya's face deepened. "You were in the military?" Lena's chest tightened. They'd never talked about it. Not really. Maya knew the basics. Mom served before she was born, came home, got a job. But the details, the truth, the things Lena had seen and done, those stayed buried. "I was," Lena said carefully, "a medic. I left before you were old enough to remember." "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because it didn't matter." "It matters now." Lena looked away. "It shouldn't." Maya stood, crossed the small kitchen, and stopped in front of her mother. "Is that why you know how to fix everything? Why you never panic? Why you always know what to do when things go wrong?" Lena didn't answer. "Mom," Maya's voice cracked, "why did they give you an award now, after all this time?" "Because someone decided I deserved one." "Did you?" Lena met her daughter's eyes. "I did my job. That's all." Maya stared at her for a long moment, then wrapped her arms around Lena's waist and held on tight. Lena froze, then slowly returned the embrace, resting her chin on top of Maya's head. "You're a hero," Maya whispered. "I'm your mom," Lena replied quietly. "That's all that matters." But even as she said it, she knew the world outside their apartment wouldn't let it stay that simple. By morning, the video had 15 million views. Lena turned her phone back on and immediately regretted it. 43 missed calls, over 200 texts, voice messages from numbers she didn't recognize, emails flooding her inbox, the hospital administrator, local news stations, national outlets, even a producer from a morning talk show. She deleted everything without reading. She got Maya off to school, changed into her scrubs, and drove to Mercy Grove like it was any other shift. Maybe if she ignored it, it would go away. Maybe people would move on to the next viral moment. Maybe her life could go back to normal. She was wrong. The hospital parking lot was packed with news vans. Reporters clustered near the entrance, cameras ready, microphones extended. Lena parked in the back lot and walked toward the staff entrance, hoping to slip in unnoticed. A cameraman spotted her first. "Miss Ward, Channel 7 News, can we get a statement?" Lena kept walking. Others swarmed. "Is it true you were denied recognition for years? How does it feel to finally be honored? Do you blame the military for abandoning you?" Lena pushed through the crowd without responding, yanked open the staff door, and slammed it behind her. She leaned against the wall, breathing hard, her heart hammering. A security guard approached. "You okay, Miss Ward?" "Fine," she lied. "Just need to get to work." She made it halfway to the ER before her supervisor intercepted her. "Ward, administrator's office, now." Lena's jaw tightened. "I have patients, now." She followed without arguing, knowing resistance was pointless. They rode the elevator in tense silence, walked down 2 hallways, and stopped outside a frosted glass door labeled Dr. Philip Brennan, Chief Administrator. Her supervisor knocked once and pushed it open. Doctor. Brennan sat behind a massive oak desk, his suit expensive, his expression unreadable. He gestured to a chair. "Sit." Lena sat. Brennan folded his hands on the desk. "You've caused quite a disruption, Miss Ward." "I didn't ask for any of this." "No, but here we are." He leaned back in his chair. "The hospital has received over 300 calls this morning. News outlets, advocacy groups, veterans organizations, all of them wanting access to you, wanting interviews, wanting to tell your story. My story isn't for sale. Perhaps not, but it's out there now, and this hospital is part of it." Brennan's eyes hardened. General Caldwell's donation was generous, very generous, but it came with expectations, visibility, recognition. You're the face of that now. Lena's hands curled into fists in her lap. "I'm a nurse. I work ER nights. That's all I want to be." "That's no longer an option." Brennan slid a folder across the desk. "The board met this morning. We've decided to reassign you." Lena's blood went cold. "Reassign me where?" "Public relations. You'll be the hospital's community outreach liaison. Attend events, give interviews, represent Mercy Grove and veteran healthcare initiatives." "I'm not doing that." "Then you're refusing a direct assignment." "I'm refusing a publicity stunt." Brennan's expression didn't change. "Miss Ward, you're either part of this hospital's future, or you're not. Choose carefully." Lena stood slowly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I saved a man's life. That's what I do. That's all I've ever done. If you want to turn that into a photo op, find someone else." She walked out before he could respond. Her supervisor caught up with her in the hallway. "Ward, you just made a huge mistake." "Wouldn't be the first time." "They'll fire you." "Let them try." But as she walked back toward the ER, doubt crept in. She needed this job. Maya needed this job. They couldn't afford for her to lose it, but she also couldn't become a mascot. Couldn't let them parade her around like some redemption story while nothing actually changed. She pushed through the ER doors and grabbed the first chart off the rack. If they wanted a fight, she'd give them one. The call came 3 hours later. Lena was suturing a laceration on a construction worker's forearm when a nurse tapped her shoulder. "You've got a call. Line 3. Says it's urgent." "I'm busy." "It's General Caldwell." Lena's hands stilled. She finished the last stitch, bandaged the wound, gave the patient discharge instructions, and walked to the nearest phone. She picked up the receiver. "This is Ward. They're trying to silence you." Ethan's voice was calm but edged with steel. "How did you—" "I have sources everywhere, Miss Ward, including inside Mercy Grove. Brennan tried to reassign you. You refused. Now he's building a case to terminate you." Lena closed her eyes. "I can handle it." "No, you can't, not alone." Ethan paused. "But you don't have to." "What does that mean?" "It means you have options, more than you think." His tone shifted. "Meet me, tonight, 7 p.m., Riverside Park, South Entrance. Come alone." "Why?" "Because the people who failed you once are about to do it again. And I'm not letting that happen." The line went dead. Lena stood holding the receiver, her mind racing. She didn't trust this, didn't trust him, didn't trust any of it. But she also knew Brennan wasn't bluffing. He'd find a reason to fire her, some policy violation, some manufactured complaint. She'd seen it happen to others. She hung up the phone and went back to work. But when her shift ended, she didn't go home. She drove to Riverside Park. The park was nearly empty at 7 p.m., the November cold keeping most people indoors. Lena walked along the paved path toward the south entrance, her breath misting in the air. She spotted Ethan near a bench overlooking the river, his coat collar turned up against the wind. He turned as she approached. "You came." "I shouldn't have." "But you did." Ethan gestured to the bench. "Sit." Lena remained standing. "Say what you need to say." Ethan studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Brennan's building a file on you. Late arrivals, missed meetings, insubordination, all fabricated, but documented. He'll have enough to justify termination by the end of the week." "How do you know this?" "Because I've seen it 100 times. Powerful institutions don't like being challenged. They don't like people who won't play along, so they crush them." He met her gaze. "Unless someone bigger stops them." "And that's you?" "That's me." Ethan pulled a folded document from his coat. "I had my legal team draft this. A formal complaint against Mercy Grove for wrongful reassignment, retaliation, and violation of veteran employment protections." Lena stared at the paper. "I never asked you to fight my battles." "No, but I owe you my life, and I don't leave debts unpaid." He held out the document. "Sign this. Let me file it. Make them answer for what they're doing." Lena didn't take it. "And then what? I become the woman who sued her employer? No hospital will touch me after that." "You're already the woman the internet won't stop talking about. Might as well use it." "I don't want to use it. I want my life back." Ethan lowered the paper. "Your life was never yours, Miss Ward. Not really. You've been surviving, barely. Working yourself to death for people who don't value you. That's not living. That's existing. It's all I have." "No." Ethan's voice softened. "It's all you had. Things are different now." "Because of a video?" "Because the world finally sees you. And once people see the truth, they don't forget it." He folded the document and tucked it back into his coat. "But if you want to let them bury you again, I can't stop you. The choice is yours." He turned and started walking toward the parking lot. Lena stood frozen, her mind a storm of conflicting thoughts. She thought of Maya, thought of rent, thought of the fragile stability she'd built from nothing, thought of the look in Brennan's eyes when he'd threatened her. "Wait." Ethan stopped. Lena walked toward him, each step heavier than the last. "If I do this, if I sign that paper, it's war. You know that." "I do." "They'll come after me with everything. Let them. I can't afford to lose." "You won't." Ethan pulled the document out again and handed it to her along with a pen. "Because this time, you're not fighting alone." Lena stared at the paper. Her hand shook as she took the pen. She thought about all the years she'd stayed silent, all the time she'd swallowed injustice because speaking up meant losing everything, all the people who dismissed her, overlooked her, treated her like she was disposable. She signed. Ethan took the document, folded it carefully, and nodded. Now, the real fight begins. The lawsuit hit the news 48 hours later. Lena was loading groceries into her car when Maya called, her voice panicked. "Mom, turn on the TV, Channel 4, now!" Lena abandoned the cart and climbed into her car, pulling up the news stream on her phone. A reporter stood outside Mercy Grove Hospital, microphone in hand, speaking rapidly. Filed late last night alleging systematic retaliation and wrongful reassignment. The complaint claims that after Lena Ward, the now famous combat medic, refused to participate in publicity campaigns, hospital administrators attempted to force her into a non-clinical role and later threatened termination. Lena's phone exploded with notifications, calls, texts, emails. She ignored them all and drove straight to the hospital. The parking lot was chaos. More news vans, more cameras. Protesters had arrived, some holding signs supporting her, others calling the lawsuit frivolous. Security guards blocked the main entrance. Lena parked and tried the staff door. Locked. Her badge didn't work. She tried again. Red light, access denied. A security guard approached. "Miss Ward, you're not authorized to enter the premises." "I work here." "Not anymore. Administrator's orders. You've been placed on administrative leave pending investigation." Lena's vision tunneled. "Investigation into what?" "I don't have details, ma'am. You'll receive official notice by mail." "Let me in. I have patients. I can't do that. The guard's expression was apologetic but firm. I'm sorry. Lena stood there, locked out of the place she'd worked for 6 years, surrounded by strangers shouting questions she couldn't answer. She turned and walked back to her car, climbed inside, and sat in silence. Her phone rang. Ethan. She answered. They locked me out. I know. I expected it. You expected it? Her voice rose. They just destroyed my career. No, they just made a mistake. Ethan's tone was calm. A very public, very stupid mistake. And now everyone's watching. That doesn't pay my rent. It will. Trust me. He paused. Meet me at my office tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I have people you need to talk to. What people? The kind who eat institutions like Mercy Grove for breakfast. Lena closed her eyes. This is spiraling. No, this is justice. Finally. Ethan's voice hardened. They wanted a fight. Now they have one. And they're going to lose. He hung up. Lena sat in her car for another 10 minutes, then drove home. Maya was waiting, her laptop open on the kitchen table, the lawsuit document pulled up on the screen. Mom, this is insane. I know. They can't just fire you. They didn't. They put me on leave. It's worse. Maya scrolled through the comments under the news article. Everyone's on your side. Look. Lena glanced at the screen. Thousands of comments, most supportive, some vicious, a few threatening. She looked away. What are you going to do? Maya asked quietly. Lena sat down across from her daughter. Fight, apparently. Good. Maya's jaw set in a way that reminded Lena of herself. They shouldn't get away with this. It's going to get ugly. It's already ugly. Maya reached across the table and squeezed her mother's hand. But you're not scared of ugly. Lena squeezed back. No, I'm not. But she was scared of losing, scared of what came next, scared of dragging Maya through a public war neither of them asked for. She just didn't have a choice anymore. A sec. Ethan's office was nothing like Lena expected. No military memorabilia, no flags or medals on display, just a clean, modern space in a glass tower downtown, filled with leather furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He met her in the lobby himself, shook her hand, and led her to a conference room where 3 people waited. A woman in her 50s with silver hair and sharp eyes, a man in his 30s with a tablet and an expensive suit, and another man, older, with the calm confidence of someone who'd won more battles than he'd lost. Ethan made introductions. Lena Ward, meet Patricia Voss, labor attorney, Michael Tan, public relations strategist, and Judge Harold Kessler, retired. They're your team. Lena blinked. My team for what? Patricia stood and extended a hand. For destroying Mercy Grove's legal defense and making sure you never work another underpaid shift in your life. Michael grinned. And for turning you into a national advocate for veterans' rights while we're at it. Lena looked at Ethan. I didn't agree to any of this. You signed the lawsuit, Ethan replied calmly. Everything else follows. Patricia gestured to a chair. Sit. Let's talk strategy. Lena sat slowly, feeling like she'd stepped onto a stage without learning her lines. Patricia opened a folder and slid documents across the table. Mercy Grove's defense is predictable, Patricia began. They'll claim the reassignment was voluntary, that you were insubordinate, that administrative leave is standard procedure, but they made 3 critical mistakes. She tapped the first document. 1, they locked you out within hours of the lawsuit going public. That's retaliation, textbook definition. 2, they documented your refusal to participate in PR, which proves the reassignment was punitive, not operational. 3, they underestimated how much the public cares about your story. Michael jumped in. The video of you receiving the Bronze Star has 28 million views. Your name is trending in 43 countries. Every veterans organization in the U.S. is rallying behind you. Mercy Grove just picked a fight with someone the entire internet has decided to protect. Judge Kessler leaned forward. The hospital's board will pressure Brennan to settle, quietly, quickly, before this turns into a prolonged legal nightmare. Lena shook her head. I don't want a settlement. I want my job back. You'll get more than that, Patricia said. Full reinstatement, back pay, a formal apology. Policy changes ensuring no other veteran employee faces retaliation. and a significant financial settlement for damages. I don't want money. You should. Patricia's tone was blunt. You've been underpaid for 6 years. You've worked yourself to exhaustion for a system that exploited you. Take the money, secure your daughter's future, then decide what you want to do next. Lena looked around the table at these strangers who'd somehow become her advocates. Why are you all doing this? Ethan answered. Because you saved my life, and because what happened to you happens to thousands of veterans every year. Someone needs to make an example. Mercy Grove just volunteered. Patricia slid another document forward. This is a counter-complaint we're filing tomorrow. Discrimination, hostile work environment, systemic undervaluation of veteran employees. We're not just fighting for you, we're auditing the entire hospital. Lena's breath caught. That'll take months, maybe years. Good, Patricia said coldly. Let them sweat. Michael tapped his tablet. Meanwhile, we control the narrative. You're not just a nurse. You're a decorated combat medic who saved lives overseas and came home to save lives here, only to be punished for refusing to be a mascot. That story writes itself. Judge Kessler nodded. And when this goes to court, if it goes to court, you'll have a jury who already knows your name, knows what you did, knows what they tried to do to you. Lena sat back in her chair, her mind reeling. This wasn't what she'd signed up for. She'd just wanted to keep her job, keep her head down, keep surviving. But survival wasn't enough anymore. Not for her. Not for Maya. Not for all the other veterans still fighting battles no one knew about. She looked at Ethan. If I do this, all the way, no backing down, what happens to Brennan? Ethan smiled slowly. He loses everything. Lena nodded once. Good. The hospital's response came 3 days later. Not a settlement offer, not an apology. A public statement. Dr. Brennan stood at a podium outside Mercy Grove, flanked by board members and lawyers, reading from a prepared script. Mercy Grove Hospital categorically denies all allegations in the lawsuit filed by Miss Ward. Her reassignment was a routine administrative decision unrelated to any external events. Her subsequent leave was necessary due to ongoing performance concerns that predate recent publicity. Lena watched the press conference on her phone, her jaw clenched. Performance concerns. They were calling her work inadequate, publicly, on camera. Patricia called 30 seconds after the conference ended. They just handed us the case. How? By lying. We have 6 years of performance reviews, all excellent. Not a single disciplinary action. They just committed defamation on live television. Michael's voice joined the call. And the internet is eviscerating them. Check Twitter. Lena pulled up the app. The hospital's statement was being torn apart in real time. Nurses who'd worked with her were posting testimonials. Patients were sharing stories. Veterans groups were organizing protests. And someone had leaked internal emails. Emails showing Brennan discussing how to manage the ward situation. How to minimize disruption, not how to leverage her story for hospital fundraising. The internet didn't just turn on Mercy Grove, it detonated. Within 6 hours, 2 board members resigned. A dozen sponsors pulled funding. The state medical board announced an ethics investigation, and Lena's phone wouldn't stop ringing. She ignored most calls. But when a number with a Washington, D.C. area code appeared, she hesitated, then answered. Miss Ward, this is Congressman David Harmon. I chair the House Veterans Affairs Committee. I'd like to invite you to testify. Lena's breath stopped. Testify about what? About what happens when veterans come home. About the systems that fail them. About the fact that you saved lives in 2 war zones and came home to work for $16 an hour while being treated as disposable. His voice was grave. Your story isn't unique, Miss Ward. It's universal. And Congress needs to hear it. I'm not a politician. You're better. You're proof. He paused. Will you come? Lena looked around her tiny apartment, at Maya doing homework at the kitchen table, at the stack of bills on the counter, at the life she'd built from nothing that was crumbling in real time. Yes, she said quietly. I'll come. Harmon exhaled. Thank you. My office will be in touch. He hung up. Maya looked up. Who was that? Congress, Lena said, still staring at her phone. They want me to testify. Maya's eyes widened. In Washington? In Washington. Mom, that's huge. I know. Are you going to do it? Lena met her daughter's gaze. I already said yes. Because somewhere between the grocery store and the lawsuit and the leaked emails, something had shifted. She wasn't just fighting for her job anymore. She was fighting for every person who'd ever been overlooked, every veteran who came home and disappeared, every nurse who worked until they broke and got nothing in return. She was fighting because no one else would, and she was done staying quiet. The testimony was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Ethan's team prepared her relentlessly. Mock questions, media training, legal coaching. Patricia drilled her on staying calm under hostile questioning. Michael taught her how to control a narrative. Judge Kessler reminded her that truth was her only weapon. But nothing prepared her for walking into the House chamber. The room was massive. Tiered seating, cameras everywhere, congressional members at an elevated bench, spectators packed into gallery seats. Lena walked to the witness table alone, her heart hammering, and sat down in front of a microphone. Congressman Harmon gavelled the session to order. We're here today to discuss systemic failures in veteran employment and healthcare. Our witness is Lena Ward, former Army combat medic and current subject of national attention due to her treatment by Mercy Grove Hospital. He looked at her. Miss Ward, thank you for being here. Please share your story. Lena leaned toward the microphone. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. My name is Lena Ward. I enlisted at 19. I deployed twice. I saved 17 lives under fire. She spoke for 12 minutes. No notes, no script, just the truth. When she finished, the room was silent. Then a congressman on the left leaned forward. Miss Ward, you claim you were retaliated against, but isn't it true you refused a promotion? It wasn't a promotion. It was a publicity role. And some might call that an opportunity. Some might call it exploitation. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. The congressman frowned. You're accusing a respected hospital of exploitation? I'm accusing them of using my service as marketing while paying me poverty wages. Another congressman jumped in. Do you believe you're owed special treatment because of your military service? Lena's eyes hardened. I believe I'm owed the same respect any worker deserves. I don't want special treatment. I want fair treatment. Then why sue? Because asking nicely didn't work. The room erupted. Some applauding, others shouting objections. Harmon gavelled for order. But Lena wasn't finished. She leaned closer to the microphone, her voice cutting through the noise. I'm not here because I'm special. I'm here because I'm not. There are thousands of veterans like me, working jobs that undervalue them, fighting systems that ignore them, surviving instead of living. I got lucky. Someone noticed, but what about everyone else? The room went still. You want to honor veterans? Lena continued. Stop thanking us for our service and start treating us like we matter, not just on Veterans Day, every day. She sat back. The silence stretched for 3 long seconds. Then the gallery exploded into applause. Harmon let it go for 10 seconds before gaveling again. Thank you, Miss Ward. This committee will take your testimony under advisement. But Lena knew it was more than that. The cameras had caught everything. The internet would do the rest. She'd just declared war on every institution that had ever failed a veteran. And this time, the whole country was watching. Bolts. Lena walked out of the Capitol building into a wall of reporters. Cameras, questions, chaos. Ethan's security team formed a barrier, guiding her toward a waiting car. She climbed inside and the door slammed shut, muffling the noise. Ethan sat across from her. You just became the most powerful veteran advocate in America. Lena stared out the window. I just wanted my job back. You'll get it, and a hell of a lot more. He handed her his phone. Check the news. She took it reluctantly. Headlines scrolled past. Veterans' testimony sparks national outcry. Mercy Grove Hospital under federal investigation. Congress pledges veteran employment reform. And then, buried halfway down the feed, something else. Breaking. Mercy Grove Administrator Philip Brennan resigns amid scandal. Lena's breath caught. He's gone? As of 20 minutes ago, the board forced him out. Ethan's smile was grim. Turns out destroying someone on national television has consequences. Lena handed back the phone, her mind spinning. Brennan was gone. The hospital was under investigation. Veterans groups were organizing nationwide, and somehow, impossibly, she'd become the center of it all. What happens now? She asked quietly. Ethan leaned forward. Now? You decide what kind of hero you want to be. Before Lena could respond, her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You don't know what you've done. This isn't over. Her blood went cold. She showed Ethan. His expression darkened. We need to get you somewhere safe. Safe from what? From people who don't want you talking. He pulled out his phone and made a call. I need a protective detail. Now. Lena's heart raced. You think someone's going to... The car's back window exploded. Glass shattered inward. Lena screamed. Ethan threw himself over her as the driver slammed the accelerator. The car fishtailed, tires screeching, racing through D.C. Streets as another shot cracked through the air. Someone wasn't just trying to silence her. They were trying to kill her. The driver's training kicked in instantly. He yanked the wheel hard left, cutting across 2 lanes as another bullet punched through the rear quarter panel. Metal shrieked. Horns blared. Ethan stayed over Lena, his weight pressing her down into the seat as the car rocketed through a red light. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, her ears ringing from the gunshot still echoing in the confined space. Stay down! Ethan barked into his phone. We're under fire, K Street, northwest of the Capitol. Shots from elevated position, need immediate extraction, and... The rear windshield disintegrated completely. Lena felt the heat of the round pass inches from her head before it buried itself in the dashboard. The driver swerved again, throwing them sideways, and suddenly they were in an underground parking garage, tires screaming as they spiraled down 3 levels into darkness. The car skidded to a stop between concrete pillars. The driver killed the engine. Silence dropped like a hammer. Ethan slowly lifted himself off Lena. You hit? She shook her head, unable to form words. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to clench them into fists. The driver, a man in his 40s with dead calm eyes, stepped out and circled the vehicle, scanning the entrance ramp. Clear for now, but we can't stay here. Ethan helped Lena sit up. Glass covered everything. Her coat was dusted with it. She brushed fragments from her hair mechanically, her mind still catching up to the fact that someone had just tried to kill her. Not threaten, not intimidate, kill. Who was that? She managed. Don't know yet. Ethan pulled out his phone again, but they were professional. Military-grade rifle, elevated position, calculated timing. Why? Because you just cost powerful people a lot of money. He scrolled rapidly through messages. Mercy Grove's parent company is Stellarian Health. 60 hospitals nationwide. Billions in revenue. If your lawsuit triggers a federal audit, if other veterans start filing complaints, if their labor practices get exposed, they lose everything, Lena finished quietly. Not everything, but enough to justify extreme measures. Ethan looked up. The question is whether they're acting officially or if someone panicked and went rogue. The driver leaned in through the open door. Sir, we've got 3 minutes before police arrive. Decision time. Ethan's jaw tightened. Take us to the safe house. Georgetown, Route 7. That's across town. I know where it is. Move. The driver nodded and climbed back in. The engine roared to life. They ascended the ramp slowly, cautiously, then merged back into DC traffic like nothing had happened. Around them, people walked, talked, lived normal lives. No one had any idea that someone had just tried to execute a woman for telling the truth. Lena stared at the shattered windows. I need to call Maya. Not on that phone. Ethan handed her a different device, encrypted, military grade. Use this. But don't tell her where you are. Don't tell her what happened. Lena took it with trembling hands and dialed. Maya picked up on the second ring. Mom? Whose number is this? It's me. I'm borrowing a phone. Mine died. How'd the testimony go? I've been watching the news. Everyone's talking about it. Lena forced her voice steady. It went fine. Listen, I need you to do something for me. Pack a bag. Essentials only. Someone's going to pick you up in 20 minutes. What? Why? Just a precaution. Things are getting complicated and I want you somewhere safe until it calms down. Mom, you're scaring me. I know, but I need you to trust me. Pack your bag. Wait for the car. They'll take you to Aunt Rachel's. Lena didn't have an Aunt Rachel, but Maya would understand the code. Go to her best friend's house, the one whose mother Lena trusted. I'll call you tonight, I promise. Mom, 20 minutes, please. She hung up before Maya could argue. Ethan was already texting someone. I'm sending a team to your apartment. They'll secure your daughter and relocate her to a protected location. She's 14, she'll fight them. Then they'll explain the situation. Ethan's eyes were cold. Someone just tried to kill you, Miss Ward. If they know where you live, and they do, your daughter is a target. The words hit like a physical blow. Lena leaned back against the seat, glass crunching beneath her. This had spiraled so far beyond a lawsuit, beyond justice. This was survival now. What do you want me to do? She asked quietly. Disappear. For 48 hours. Let my people find who pulled the trigger and why. Let the authorities lock this down. And then? Then you decide if you want to keep fighting. Lena looked at him. You know I'm not stopping. Ethan's expression didn't change. I know, that's why I'm not asking you to. The safe house was a brownstone in a quiet Georgetown neighborhood, unremarkable from the outside, fortified like a bunker within. 3 security personnel swept Lena inside before the car even stopped moving. The driver stayed with the vehicle. Ethan led her through a foyer into a living room with blackout curtains and monitors showing every angle of the street outside. A woman in tactical gear nodded to Ethan. Perimeter secure, no tail. We're clean. Keep it that way. Ethan turned to Lena. Upstairs, second door on the left. Shower. Clean clothes in the closet. Food in the kitchen when you're ready. Lena nodded numbly and climbed the stairs. The bedroom was Spartan but comfortable. Bed, dresser, attached bathroom. She locked the door, stripped off her glass-covered clothes, and stood under scalding water until her skin turned red. She watched the water circle the drain, carrying away glass fragments and the illusion that her life would ever be normal again. When she finally emerged, she found clothes laid out on the bed. Jeans, a sweatshirt, socks. All her size. Ethan's people were thorough. She dressed mechanically and went back downstairs. Ethan sat at a dining table covered in laptops and documents, talking rapidly into a phone. He gestured for her to sit. She did, accepting the coffee someone placed in front of her without asking. Ethan finished his call. Your daughter's secure. My team picked her up 8 minutes ago. No complications. Where is she? Better you don't know, but she's safe. He pushed a laptop toward her. We pulled security footage from 3 buildings near the Capitol. Got a partial on the shooter. Lena looked at the screen. A grainy freeze frame showed a figure on a rooftop, partially obscured by HVAC equipment. Male, medium build, dark clothing, rifle visible, professional stance. Mean anything to you? She shook her head. Should it? No, but I had to ask. Ethan pulled up another window. Financial records, corporate filings, names highlighted in red. Stellarian Health hired a crisis management firm 6 hours after your testimony aired. That firm has connections to private security contractors, the kind who handle problems quietly. Lena's stomach turned. You think the company ordered this? I think someone in the company panicked, but proving it is different. He closed the laptop. The FBI is opening an investigation. Congressional security is involved. This isn't going away quietly. Good. Ethan studied her. You understand what this means? They tried to kill you and failed. Next time they'll be more careful, more thorough. So what do you suggest? I hide forever? I suggest you let me handle the threats while you handle the message. He leaned forward. Your testimony today shifted the entire conversation. Veterans organizations are mobilizing. Legislators are drafting bills. The media won't stop calling. You have momentum. Use it. Someone just shot at me. And now everyone knows why. Ethan's voice was hard. Because you're dangerous. Because you told a truth powerful people wanted buried. That makes you more valuable alive than dead. Until it doesn't. Until it doesn't, he agreed. Which is why we finish this fast. Lena wrapped her hands around the coffee mug, feeling its warmth. How? By turning the tables. They came after you. Now we expose everyone involved. Every payment, every email, every connection between Stellarian and the shooter. We make this so public, so undeniable, that trying again becomes suicide. And if we can't prove the connection, then we prove enough to destroy them anyway. Ethan's smile was razor thin. You've already won the public, Miss Ward. Now we weaponize it. The next 24 hours blurred together. Lena stayed in the safe house while Ethan's network went to work. Investigators pulled financial records. Lawyers filed emergency motions. Journalists received anonymous tips from sources who may or may not have been Ethan himself. And slowly, methodically, a picture emerged. Stellarian Health had paid a crisis firm $12 million in the past 6 months. That firm employed former military contractors. One of those contractors, Marcus Webb, ex-Army Ranger, dishonorable discharge, had deposited $50,000 2 days before the shooting. His phone records showed calls to a burner number traced to the D.C. area. Webb was arrested at a motel in Virginia 18 hours after the attack. Lena watched the news coverage in silence. Webb's face on every screen. FBI agents in windbreakers leading him away in handcuffs. Reporters shouting questions he didn't answer. Then came the pivot. Webb's lawyer made a statement. My client categorically denies involvement in any shooting. He was hired to conduct surveillance only. If others used information he provided for illegal purposes, he had no knowledge of it. Lena looked at Ethan. He's going to flip. Already happening. His lawyer reached out 2 hours ago. Webb will testify against whoever hired him in exchange for a reduced sentence. Will he? Yes, because the alternative is spending 20 years in federal prison. Ethan pulled up another document. And we just made it easier for him. One of Stellarian's board members, Gerald Hutchins, had a meeting with the crisis firm's CEO the day after your testimony. His assistant logged it. Conference room, 2 hours. Subject line, Ward situation. Lena's pulse quickened. That's conspiracy. That's the start of one. We need more, but it's enough to force Stellarian to the table. What table? Settlement. Public apology. Full disclosure of labor practices. And most importantly, protection for every veteran employee in their system. Ethan's eyes gleamed. They wanted you gone. Instead, you're about to rewrite their entire operation. Lena stood and walked to the window, staring through the gap in the blackout curtains. Outside, the world continued. People walked dogs, carried groceries, lived lives where assassins weren't real. She'd been one of them a month ago. I didn't want this, she said quietly. I know. I just wanted to work, take care of Maya, survive. You're past survival now. Ethan joined her at the window. You're at war, and wars don't end with compromises. They end with victory or defeat. Which one are we heading toward? Victory. But it'll cost you. Lena turned to face him. How much? Everything you have left. Ethan's expression was grave. Your privacy, your anonymity, your quiet life. You'll never be invisible again, Miss Ward. The question is whether you can accept that. Lena thought of Maya, hidden somewhere safe but terrified. Thought of every nurse working 60-hour weeks for poverty wages. Thought of every veteran who came home and disappeared into minimum wage obscurity. Thought of the man who tried to kill her because she dared speak truth. I can accept it, she said, if it means no one else has to. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we go all in. The break came 36 hours after the shooting. Gerald Hutchins' assistant, a woman named Sandra Kim, who'd worked for Stellarian for 12 years, walked into FBI headquarters and handed over 3 years of emails. Lena watched the press conference live. The assistant director of the FBI stood at a podium, flanked by federal prosecutors, announcing charges against Hutchins for conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, and witness intimidation. 3 other Stellarian executives were named as co-conspirators. This investigation is ongoing, the director stated. But let me be clear. Attempting to silence a witness through violence will not be tolerated. Miss Ward's testimony sparked legitimate concerns about veteran employment practices. These charges demonstrate that those concerns were not only valid, but worth killing to suppress. The press erupted. Questions overlapped. Cameras flashed. Ethan muted the television. It's done. Stellarian's finished. Lena sat motionless. Hutchins ordered my death. He authorized resolution of the problem. Same thing with plausible deniability. Ethan's tone was ice. But Sandra Kim kept everything, every email, every instruction, every payment authorization. She handed us a roadmap. Why? Because her brother's a Marine, came home from Afghanistan with PTSD, couldn't find work, killed himself 2 years ago. Ethan met her gaze. She's been waiting for a reason to burn them down. You gave her one. Lena closed her eyes. Another casualty. Another invisible tragedy. How many more were out there? Her encrypted phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Lena Ward? Who is this? My name's Dr. Allison Cross. I'm an ER physician at Mercy Grove. I've been watching the news. A pause. There are things you need to know about that hospital, things that didn't make it into your lawsuit. Lena's grip tightened on the phone. What kind of things? The kind that get people killed. Cross's voice dropped. Can you meet me? Somewhere safe? Lena looked at Ethan. He was already pulling up tracking software, locating the call. He nodded. Where? Lena asked. There's a diner on Route 40, just outside Belridge. Sullivan's. I'll be in the back booth in 2 hours. How do I know you're legitimate? You don't, but I've worked at Mercy Grove for 8 years. I know what they did to you, and I know it's not the first time. Cross hesitated. Come alone if you can. Trust is hard to come by right now. She hung up. Ethan was already typing. Dr. Allison Cross, emergency medicine, board certified, clean record. No obvious connections to Stellarian. He looked up. Could be legitimate. Could be a trap. Only one way to find out? Not alone. She said, I heard what she said. And I'm telling you, you're not walking into an unknown situation without backup. Ethan stood. We'll take a team. They'll stay outside. You go in, talk to her, see what she has. First sign of trouble, we extract you. Lena wanted to argue, but the image of the shattered car window was still too fresh. She nodded. 2 hours later, she sat in the back booth of Sullivan's Diner, a roadside place that smelled like burnt coffee and grease. Ethan's team was positioned outside. 2 in a car across the street, 1 in the parking lot, 1 at the counter pretending to read a newspaper. Lena wore a wire. Every word would be recorded. Dr. Cross arrived 10 minutes late. She was in her 40s, tired eyes, nervous hands. She slid into the booth and ordered coffee without looking at the menu. Thank you for coming, Cross said quietly. You said there were things I needed to know. Cross glanced around the diner, then leaned forward. Mercy Grove has been systematically underpaying veteran employees for years. Not just you. Dozens. They target people with military backgrounds because they're trained to follow orders, not complain. They work them to exhaustion, deny promotions, and when anyone pushes back, they find a reason to fire them. That's already part of my lawsuit. I know, but there's more. Cross pulled a flash drive from her pocket and slid it across the table. I've been documenting it. Pay discrepancies. Falsified performance reviews. Disability discrimination. One veteran nurse had a service-related back injury. They forced him into lifting protocols they knew would aggravate it, then fired him for being unable to perform. Lena stared at the flash drive. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Because I was scared. Because I have student loans and a mortgage and a career to protect. Cross's voice cracked. And because I convinced myself it wasn't my fight, but then I watched them try to destroy you for refusing to be their mascot, and I couldn't stay silent anymore. Lena picked up the drive. This is everything? Everything I could get without raising suspicion. Financial records, internal memos, testimony from other employees who were too afraid to speak up. Cross met her eyes. Use it. End them. Why are you really doing this? Cross was quiet for a moment. My father was Army, Vietnam, came home to nothing, drank himself to death by 50. She swallowed hard. I became a doctor to save people like him. Instead, I've been working for a system that destroys them. I can't do it anymore. Lena closed her hand around the flash drive. Thank you. Cross nodded and stood. Be careful. If they know I gave you that, they won't. You were never here. Cross hesitated, then walked out. Lena watched her go, then signaled Ethan through the window. Within 30 seconds, the team was moving. Lena paid the check and left through the back exit. They were in the car and rolling before anyone noticed. Ethan took the flash drive. We'll analyze this tonight. If it's what she says, it is. Lena's voice was flat. She's telling the truth. How do you know? Because I've seen that look before. In the mirror. When you finally stop lying to yourself about what you're part of. She stared out the window at passing farmland. She's not trying to save me. She's trying to save herself. Patricia Voss called an emergency meeting that night. Lena, Ethan, and the entire legal team gathered in the safe house basement, a converted operations room with secure communications and enough computing power to run a small intelligence agency. Patricia plugged in the flash drive and started pulling files. Her expression darkened with every document. This is damning, she said finally. Not just for Mercy Grove, for Stellarian's entire network. If these practices are systemic, and they appear to be, we're looking at a class action lawsuit that could involve thousands of plaintiffs. Michael Tan leaned over her shoulder, scrolling through data. The PR impact alone will be catastrophic. Stellarian's stock is already down 30%. This could trigger a full collapse. Judge Kessler studied a memo on screen. This one's particularly egregious. Directive from corporate to minimize veteran hires due to compliance complications. Now that's direct discrimination. Lena felt cold. How many people did they do this to? Patricia ran a search query. Names populated the screen, hundreds of them, all flagged with veteran status, all showing pay discrepancies, denied promotions, or terminated employment. At least 400 across their hospital network, Patricia said. Probably more if we dig deeper. Ethan stood abruptly. We need to contact every single one, offer them representation, build this into something Stellarian can't settle quietly. That'll take months, Michael said. Then we start now. Ethan looked at Lena. You wanted to make sure no one else had to go through what you did. This is how we do it. Lena stared at the names on the screen. 400 people. 400 silent battles. 400 invisible casualties of a system designed to exploit their service. Do it, she said. All of it. Patricia nodded and started making calls. Within the hour, the legal team was mobilizing a nationwide effort. Investigators were dispatched. Lawyers were briefed. Media alerts were prepared. What started as one nurse's lawsuit was about to become the largest veteran employment case in U.S. history. And Lena Ward, the woman they'd tried to silence, was leading it. The counterattack came fast. Stellarian's lawyers filed emergency motions to seal the documents, claiming trade secret violations. Conservative media outlets ran stories questioning Lena's credibility, digging into her past, interviewing former supervisors who suddenly remembered her as difficult and insubordinate. A website appeared overnight, wardtruth.com, filled with allegations and distortions designed to paint her as opportunistic. Ethan's team dismantled each attack methodically. Every false claim was met with documented truth. Every smear was countered with testimony from people who'd actually worked with her. Every legal maneuver was blocked by motions backed by airtight evidence. But the pressure was relentless. Lena stopped sleeping more than 3 hours a night. She conducted interviews, reviewed documents, coordinated with other plaintiffs joining the lawsuit. Her face was on every news channel. Her name trended daily. Strangers approached her in public, some to thank her, others to spit accusations. Death threats arrived by email and social media. Security became constant. And through it all, Maya was hidden away, protected but isolated, unable to go to school or see friends or live any semblance of a normal teenage life. 3 weeks after the shooting, Lena sat in the safe house at 2 a.m., staring at case files, when her encrypted phone rang. Maya. Mom, I can't do this anymore. Lena's chest tightened. What happened? Nothing happened. That's the problem. I'm sitting in a house with armed guards, missing school, missing my life, while you're out there fighting everyone. Maya's voice broke. When does this end? Soon. You keep saying that because it's true. We're close. To what? Winning? What does that even mean? Maya was crying now. I want to go home. I want to see my friends. I want my mom back. Lena closed her eyes. I know. Then stop. Just stop fighting and let's go back to normal. There's no normal to go back to. Not anymore. There could be if you wanted it. The words landed like a blade. Lena gripped the phone tighter. You think I want this? You think I want armed guards and death threats and my daughter hidden away? I think you want to be right more than you want us to be safe. Silence stretched between them, broken only by Maya's quiet crying. That's not fair, Lena said finally. None of this is fair. But you're the only one who can stop it. Maya's voice steadied. So stop. Please. The line went dead. Lena sat motionless, the phone still pressed to her ear. Somewhere upstairs, security monitored cameras. Somewhere across the city, lawyers worked through the night. Somewhere in America, 400 veterans waited for justice, and her daughter wanted her to walk away from all of it. Ethan found her 20 minutes later, still sitting in the dark. He didn't say anything, just sat down across from her. She wants me to quit, Lena said. I know. I heard. The wire she wore transmitted everything. Maybe she's right. She's 14, she wants her life back. That's not the same as being right. Isn't it? Lena looked at him. What am I doing this for if I lose her? You're not going to lose her? How do you know? Because she's your daughter. And because deep down, she knows why you're doing this. She just needs time to understand it. Ethan leaned forward. But if you want to stop, say the word. We settle. You walk away with enough money to secure Maya's future. This ends tomorrow. Lena stared at the case files spread across the table. 400 names, 400 people who'd been where she was, who needed someone to fight when they couldn't. I can't, she whispered. I know. She'll hate me. Maybe. For a while. But she'll also grow up knowing her mother didn't back down when it mattered. Ethan stood. That's worth something. He left her alone in the darkness. Lena sat there until dawn, watching the sky lighten through the window, knowing that ahead lay more interviews, more legal battles, more threats, more pressure. Knowing that every choice she made would cost her something. She picked up the phone and texted Maya. I'm sorry, I love you. I'm not stopping. The response came 3 minutes later. I know. I love you too. Lena closed her eyes and let the tears come. Not because she'd won, but because she hadn't lost everything yet. The trial date was set for 6 weeks later. Federal court. Judge Morrison presiding. Stellarian versus Ward and 400 co-plaintiffs. The courthouse steps became a media circus. Every network sent crews. Every paper sent reporters. The story had evolved beyond a lawsuit. It was a referendum on how America treated its veterans. But 2 days before trial, something unexpected happened. Stellarian's board fired their entire executive team. Then they requested an emergency meeting with Patricia and the plaintiff's legal counsel. Ethan got the call at midnight. Lena was reviewing testimony when he walked into her temporary office, his expression unreadable. They want to settle. Lena looked up sharply. All of it? All of it. Full admission of wrongdoing, complete overhaul of labor practices, individual settlements for every plaintiff, policy changes enforced by federal oversight, and a public apology broadcast nationally. Lena set down her pen. What's the catch? No criminal charges against remaining board members. Hutchins and the others already indicted stay indicted, but everyone else walks. That's not justice. It's as close as we'll get. Ethan sat down across from her. The alternative is trial, which we'll probably win. But it'll take months, maybe years, appeals, delays. And during all of that, those 400 plaintiffs stay in limbo. Lena's jaw tightened. They're buying their way out. They're accepting responsibility and paying for it, which is more than most corporations ever do. It's not enough. Maybe not, but it's something. Ethan held her gaze. This is what winning looks like, Miss Ward. Messy, imperfect, but real. Lena stood and walked to the window. Below, security patrolled. Above, stars barely visible through city lights. Somewhere out there, Maya was waiting for this to end, waiting to have a life again. What do the other plaintiffs want? Lena asked. We're polling them now, but most will take the settlement. They need closure. They need compensation. They need to move on. And if I don't? Then we go to trial, but you go alone. Lena turned back to him. Would you settle? If it was you? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. I spent my career fighting wars, real ones, And I learned that perfect victories don't exist. You take the win you can get and you move forward. He stood. But this isn't my choice. It's yours. He left. Lena stood alone in the office, staring at papers filled with names she now knew by heart. People whose lives had been derailed by the same system that derailed hers. People who deserved justice. But what was justice? Hutchins would go to prison. Executives would lose their careers. Stellarian would bleed billions. Practices would change. Lives would improve. Was that enough? It had to be. She picked up the phone and called Patricia. Accept the settlement, with one condition. What condition? Part of the public apology includes testimony from plaintiffs, not corporate lawyers. Real people, telling their stories. Lena's voice was steel. They wanted us silent. Make them amplify our voices instead. Patricia was quiet for 3 seconds. I'll make it happen. The settlement was announced 2 days later at a press conference that drew national coverage. Patricia stood at a podium flanked by 20 plaintiffs, including Lena. She read the terms: admissions, payments, reforms. Then she stepped aside. One by one, the plaintiffs spoke. A Navy corpsman who'd been denied promotions for 8 years. An Air Force veteran pushed out for requesting PTSD accommodations. A Marine who'd worked 70-hour weeks at minimum wage until his body broke. Lena went last. She stepped to the microphone, cameras flashing, the weight of 400 voices on her shoulders. She didn't have notes, didn't need them. My name is Lena Ward. 4 weeks ago, I saved a man's life in a grocery store. That should have been the end of the story, but it became the beginning of something bigger. Because saving that life revealed a truth that the people trained to save lives are often the ones nobody saves. She paused, letting the silence settle. This settlement isn't justice. Not completely. Justice would mean this never happened. Justice would mean my brothers and sisters in uniform came home to opportunities, not exploitation. But this is a start. And sometimes a start is all you get. She looked directly into the primary camera. To every veteran watching this, you are not disposable. You are not invisible. You matter. And if you're being treated like you don't, speak up. Because now, finally, people are listening. She stepped back from the microphone. The room erupted. Questions flew. Cameras swarmed. But Lena didn't stay for the media circus. She walked out the side exit, climbed into a waiting car, and told the driver to take her to Maya. It was time to bring her daughter home. They met in a park 2 hours later. Neutral ground, away from safe houses and security teams. Maya sat on a bench, bundled in a coat too big for her, looking smaller than Lena remembered. She stood when her mother approached. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Maya ran forward and wrapped her arms around Lena, holding on like she'd never let go. "It's over?" Maya asked, her voice muffled against her mother's shoulder. "It's over. Can we go home?" "We can go home." They stood there in the cold. Two people who'd survived something neither had asked for, and held each other as the world moved on around them. Behind them, security maintained a perimeter. Ahead of them, an uncertain future waited. But for this moment, they had each other. Lena kissed the top of Maya's head. "I'm sorry." "I know. I couldn't stop." "I know that too." Maya pulled back and looked up at her mother. "Did you win?" Lena smiled faintly. "I think so, mostly." "Good." Maya's jaw set in that familiar stubborn line. They deserved it. They walked back to the car together, mother and daughter, survivor and witness. The driver opened the door. They climbed inside. But as the car pulled away, Lena's encrypted phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, almost let it go. But instinct made her pick up. Silence on the other end, then breathing, then a voice, distorted, mechanical. "You cost me everything, Ward." Lena's blood froze. Who is this? Someone who knows where you live, knows where your daughter goes to school, knows every mistake you're about to make. The voice was cold, empty. Hutchins was sloppy. "I won't be." The line went dead. Lena stared at the phone, her hands starting to shake again. Maya noticed immediately. "Mom? What's wrong?" Lena looked at her daughter, then at the phone, then at the city passing outside the window. She'd thought it was over. She was wrong. Lena pressed the phone to her ear even though the line was dead. her mind racing through implications faster than her pulse could catch up. Maya was staring at her now, eyes wide with the kind of fear only children of dangerous circumstances learn to recognize instantly. "Mom?" Lena forced her expression neutral and lowered the phone. "It's nothing. Wrong number." "You're lying." "Maya, don't." Her daughter's voice was sharp, older than 14 had any right to sound. "I've watched you lie to protect me for a month. I know what your face does. What was that call?" The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, waiting for instructions. Lena met his gaze and gave a single nod. He understood immediately. Protocol Delta, the one Ethan had drilled into everyone. The car didn't head toward their apartment. It turned west, toward the secure facility outside the city. Lena turned back to Maya. "Someone made a threat. We're taking precautions." "Who?" "I don't know yet." "But you're going to find out." It wasn't a question. Maya knew her mother too well. Lena reached across the seat and took her daughter's hand. "I'm going to end this permanently." "You said it was over." "I thought it was." Lena squeezed once, then released. "I was wrong." They drove in silence for 20 minutes, the city giving way to suburbs, then rural roads, then a private drive marked only by a gate and cameras. The facility was unmarked, unremarkable, a converted estate that served as overflow for Ethan's security operations. The driver cleared 3 checkpoints before pulling into an underground garage. Ethan was waiting. He took one look at Lena's face and pulled her aside while a female guard escorted Maya toward the residential wing. "What happened?" Lena handed him the phone. "Call came through 2 minutes after we left the park. Voice distortion. Knew my address, Maya's school. Said Hutchins was sloppy and they wouldn't be." Ethan's jaw tightened. He gestured to a technician who appeared instantly and took the phone. "Pull the trace. I want origin point, routing, and voice analysis in 10 minutes. The tech nodded and disappeared. Ethan guided Lena into a side office and closed the door. "Tell me exactly what they said." She repeated it word for word. Her memory had always been sharp. Combat training ensured you never forgot a threat. Ethan listened without interrupting, his expression darkening with each sentence. "You cost me everything," he repeated quietly. "Not us, not the company. Me." "Personal stake," Lena said. "Or personal vendetta." Ethan pulled up a tablet and started scrolling through files. Hutchins had partners, 3 other executives indicted, but the crisis firm that hired Webb had 15 employees, all with military or intelligence backgrounds. Any of them could have access to the information needed to make that call. Or it's someone we haven't identified yet. Also possible. Ethan's fingers moved rapidly across the screen. But voice distortion suggests they don't want to be recognized, which means you've heard their voice before. Someone close to the investigation. Someone who had access to details that weren't public. Lena felt cold spread through her chest. "You think it's someone on our side?" "I think we need to consider every possibility." Ethan looked up. "Starting with who knew you were meeting Maya today? Who knew the location?" Lena mentally retraced the morning. "Your team, Patricia, Michael, the security detail, Maya's handler." She paused. "Dr. Cross." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "The ER doctor from Mercy Grove?" "She called my encrypted line yesterday, asked how the settlement went. Said she wanted to meet again, thank me in person." Elena's stomach dropped. "I told her I couldn't, that I was picking up my daughter today." "Did you give her the location?" "No, but I told her the general time frame. If she had access to surveillance or tracking, or if she was never on your side to begin with." Ethan was already typing. "The flash drive she gave you, everything on it was legitimate, yes?" Patricia verified it. Real documents, real data. But nothing that couldn't be gathered by someone with legitimate access to hospital systems. Ethan's expression was grim. What if Cross wasn't a whistleblower? What if she was an insurance policy? The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. They knew the investigation would uncover misconduct eventually, so they controlled the narrative by having someone feed us information on their terms. Information that looked damning but kept the worst of it hidden, and positioned Cross as trustworthy so she could monitor our strategy. Ethan pulled up Dr. Cross's background file. "She's been at Mercy Grove 8 years, no disciplinary issues. But look at this. Her salary increased 40% 3 years ago. No promotion, no title change. Just a raise. Payoff, Lena said flatly. Likely. And if she's been reporting to someone this entire time. Ethan stopped mid-sentence. The technician knocked and entered without waiting for permission. Sir, the call originated from a burner purchased in Virginia 2 weeks ago. Routed through 4 proxies, final exit point in southeast D.C. Voice analysis suggests male, 40s to 50s, likely military background based on linguistic patterns. That's half our suspect pool, Ethan muttered. Anything else? One anomaly, background noise analysis picked up a specific acoustic signature. Industrial HVAC system, large capacity, consistent with hospital infrastructure. Lena and Ethan locked eyes. He's still at Mercy Grove, Lena said. Or somewhere with identical systems. Ethan turned to the tech. Pull building schematics for every Stellarian facility within 50 miles. Cross-reference employee access logs for the past week. I want names of anyone working unusual hours. The technician left. Ethan looked at Lena. You stay here, with Maya. I'll handle... No. Lena's voice was steel. This ends with me. I'm not hiding anymore. Someone just threatened your daughter, which is exactly why I'm finishing this. Lena leaned forward. They wanted me scared, wanted me running. That's what they expect, so we do the opposite. We go public, loud, make it impossible for them to move without everyone watching. Ethan studied her for a long moment. You want to bait them. I want to force their hand before they force ours. Lena's expression was ice. Set up a press conference tomorrow morning. Mercy Grove front entrance. I'll announce that new information has come to light about ongoing threats against plaintiffs. Make them panic. Make them act. And when they do, we'll be ready. The press conference was announced at 6 a.m. through every major outlet. By 8, news vans lined the street outside Mercy Grove Hospital. By 9, protesters had gathered. Veterans groups, advocacy organizations, and curious civilians drawn by the spectacle. Security barriers went up. Police established a perimeter. And at exactly 10 a.m., Lena Ward walked through the crowd toward a makeshift podium. She wore the same clothes she'd worn at the congressional testimony. Simple, professional, unremarkable, except for the bronze star visible at her collar. Ethan flanked her on one side, Patricia on the other. Behind them, 20 other plaintiffs from the settlement stood in silent support. Cameras focused. Microphones activated. The crowd quieted. Lena stepped to the podium and looked directly into the primary camera. 3 weeks ago, I stood here as a victim. Today, I'm standing here as a witness. Because the people who tried to silence me through violence are still trying. And I'm done letting them operate in shadows. She pulled out a document and held it up. Last night, I received a death threat. Direct, specific, credible. The caller had information about my family, my movements, my life. This wasn't random. This was someone with access to our investigation. Someone who believes they can still intimidate us into silence. The crowd erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Lena raised a hand. I'm making this public for one reason, to ensure that whatever happens to me, the truth doesn't die. So here's that truth. Mercy Grove Hospital and its parent company, Stellarian Health, didn't just exploit veterans. They actively suppressed those who questioned it. And when suppression failed, they turned to elimination. She gestured to Patricia, who stepped forward with a tablet. We've identified 15 employees across the Stellarian network who received unexplained salary increases in the past 5 years. All of them worked in departments handling veteran services. All of them had access to confidential employee information. We believe at least one of them is acting as an inside operative, feeding information to individuals who are willing to use violence to protect corporate interests. Patricia displayed a list of names on the screen behind them. Not faces, just positions and facilities, intentionally vague, deliberately provocative. We're calling on federal investigators to expand their inquiry, Patricia continued, and we're offering protection to any employee willing to come forward with information. Lena reclaimed the microphone. To the person who called me last night, you made a mistake. You told me you'd be careful, that you wouldn't be sloppy like Hutchins. But you were wrong about one thing. I'm not afraid of you, because I've stared down worse than corporate mercenaries. And I'm still here. She locked eyes with the camera. I'm still here. She stepped back. The crowd exploded. Questions flew like artillery. But Lena didn't answer any of them. She turned and walked back toward the hospital entrance, her team forming a protective circle. They'd thrown down the gauntlet. Now they waited to see who picked it up. The response came faster than expected. Lena was in a secure conference room inside the hospital. Ethan had negotiated temporary use of the space with current management, who wanted to distance themselves from their predecessor's actions, when Patricia burst through the door. "We got one. Dr. Cross just walked into FBI headquarters and requested protection." Lena stood. "When?" 20 minutes ago. She's giving a statement now." Patricia pulled up a live feed on her tablet. Through the grainy security footage, Lena could see Cross sitting in an interrogation room talking rapidly to two agents. Ethan leaned over Patricia's shoulder. "Audio?" "Not yet, but the agents who called said she's claiming she was coerced into monitoring the investigation. Says she reported to someone named Vincent Marrow, Regional Director of Operations for Stellarian, former Army Ranger, dishonorable discharge 15 years ago for conduct violations." Lena's blood went cold. "Marrow." Ethan looked at her sharply. "You know that name?" "Vincent Marrow. He was in my unit." Lena's voice was distant, her mind dragging up memories she'd buried. "Afghanistan. Second deployment. He was our squad leader, smart, capable, cruel. Got discharged after an incident with a detainee, claimed it was self-defense. Everyone knew it wasn't." "Why would he target you specifically?" "Because I testified against him." Lena met Ethan's gaze. "They asked me what happened. I told the truth. He blamed me for destroying his career." Ethan's expression hardened. "And now he's regional operations director for a multi-billion-dollar corporation?" Patricia scrolled through files. "Hired 6 years ago, promoted 3 times, currently oversees security and risk management for 27 facilities including Mercy Grove." She looked up. "He had access to everything. Employee records, security systems, investigation updates if anyone at the hospital was feeding him information." "Which Cross was," Lena said. "Under duress," she claims. Patricia pulled up Cross's statement. Says Marrow approached her 3 years ago, knew about her father's suicide, knew about her student loans, offered help in exchange for occasional reporting. Nothing illegal at first, just internal gossip. But after your lawsuit went public, he increased pressure, threatened to expose her as a corporate spy unless she gave him real-time updates on legal strategy. Lena's jaw tightened. "Where is he now?" "Unknown. FBI's issuing a warrant, but..." Patricia's phone rang. She answered, listened for 10 seconds, and went pale. "We need to evacuate. Now!" Ethan was already moving. "What's happening?" "Bomb threat. Called into the hospital switchboard 2 minutes ago. Claimed device planted in the administrative wing. They're clearing the building." Alarms erupted throughout the facility. The conference room door burst open and security personnel flooded in, forming a protective cordon around Lena. Ethan grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the emergency stairs. Around them, chaos erupted. Staff running, patients being wheeled toward exits, voices shouting over intercoms. They made it 3 floors down before the stairwell door ahead of them opened and a man stepped through. Vincent Marrow. He was older than Lena remembered, grayer, heavier, lines carved deep into his face by time and bitterness. But his eyes were the same, cold, dead, calculating. He held no visible weapon, just a phone in one hand. Everyone froze. "Hello, Ward," Marrow said calmly. "Been a long time." Ethan's security team drew weapons instantly, creating a barrier between Marrow and Lena. Marrow didn't flinch, just smiled. "Easy. I'm not here to shoot anyone, not today." He held up the phone. "But I do have something you'll want to see." He turned the screen toward them. Security footage. Live feed. Maya's face filled the display. She was sitting in what looked like the facility's common room, reading a book, completely unaware she was being watched. Lena's heart stopped. "Your security's good," Marrow continued conversationally. "But mine's better. I've had eyes inside Ethan's operation for weeks, know exactly where your daughter is, know exactly how to reach her. If you touch her," Lena's voice was lethal. "I won't have to, not if you're reasonable." Marrow lowered the phone. "You destroyed my life, Ward. One testimony, one moment of honesty that you decided was worth more than loyalty. I spent 15 years rebuilding, clawing my way back up. And then you appear on every screen in America, playing the victim, taking down the company that gave me a second chance. You tried to have me killed. No, Hutchins tried to have you killed. Sloppy, emotional, amateur. Marrow's smile widened. I just watched, waited. Let you think you'd won, let you get comfortable. Because I learned something in those 15 years, Ward. Revenge isn't about violence. It's about taking everything someone has and making them watch it disappear. Ethan's voice cut through. This building's being evacuated. Federal agents are en route. Whatever you think you're accomplishing, I'm accomplishing exactly what I intended. Marrow looked at Lena. You wanted justice? Congratulations. You got it. Stellarian's destroyed. Hutchins is in prison. The system changed. You won. He paused. But winners still lose things, and I'm going to make sure you lose everything that matters. He pressed something on his phone. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then Lena's encrypted phone buzzed. She pulled it out with shaking hands. A video message. She played it. Maya's face filled the screen, but it was older footage, from months ago, before any of this started. Her daughter laughing at something off camera. Happy, safe, innocent. Then the video cut to black. Text appeared. I could have taken this from you. I still can. Anytime. Anywhere. You'll never know when. You'll never feel safe. Neither will she. That's your justice. The message deleted itself. Lena looked up at Marrow, her expression murder. I'm going to end you. No, you're going to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, waiting, wondering. That's worse than death, Ward. And you know it. He turned and walked back through the door he'd entered from. Ethan's security team surged forward, but the door slammed shut. They yanked it open, empty stairwell beyond. Marrow was gone. Ethan was already on his phone. All units. Suspect is in the building. Vincent Marrow, 6'2", 200 pounds, gray hair. Lock down every exit. Find him. But Lena knew they wouldn't. Marrow had planned this, had timed everything perfectly. The bomb threat, the evacuation, the chaos. He'd walked in and out like smoke. Patricia grabbed Lena's arm. We need to get you out of here. No. Lena pulled free. We need to get Maya. They ran. The facility was on full lockdown when they arrived 40 minutes later. The fastest Ethan's driver had ever covered the distance. Armed guards at every entrance, cameras on every angle. And in the common room, Maya sat exactly where she'd been in the video feed, now surrounded by protective personnel who'd gone to elevated threat status the moment Ethan's call came through. Lena burst through the door and her daughter looked up, confused. Mom? What's wrong? Lena crossed the room and pulled Maya into a crushing embrace. Are you okay? Has anyone come near you? Anyone you didn't recognize? No, I've been here all day. Maya pulled back, searching her mother's face. What happened? Nothing. We're leaving. Leaving where? Somewhere safer. Ethan appeared in the doorway. We've got a problem. Lena turned, still holding Maya's shoulders. What now? Marrow sent a message to every major news outlet. Video statement. It's already going viral. He held up his tablet. Lena watched the video with mounting dread. Marrow sat in what looked like a nondescript hotel room, speaking directly to the camera. His tone was calm, measured, reasonable. My name is Vincent Marrow. I'm a former Army Ranger and current regional director for Stellarian Health. Over the past month, I've watched Lena Ward destroy the company I work for based on allegations that, while technically true, ignore the complexity of healthcare administration and veteran employment. I've watched her play the victim while accepting millions in settlement money. I've watched her manipulate public sympathy while threatening anyone who questions her narrative. He leaned forward. But what the media hasn't told you is that Lena Ward isn't a hero. She's a liar. 15 years ago in Afghanistan, she falsely accused me of misconduct to cover her own incompetence. I lost my career, my reputation, everything. And now she's doing it again, except this time she's taking down an entire corporation and thousands of innocent jobs with her. He held up documents. These are her original statements from the military investigation. Contradictory, inconsistent, coached. She destroyed me once with lies. I'm not letting her do it to Stellarian. The video ended. Lena stared at the blank screen, her mind reeling. He's trying to discredit me. He's succeeding, Patricia said, appearing behind Ethan. Social media is already splitting. Half the country thinks you're a fraud. The other half thinks he's a desperate criminal. But the damage is done. Your credibility just took a massive hit. Maya looked between the adults, her voice small. Mom, what is he talking about? What happened in Afghanistan? Lena closed her eyes. She'd never told Maya the details. Never wanted to. But there was no hiding anymore. Sit down, she said quietly. Maya sat. Lena remained standing, gathering words she'd buried for 15 years. I was 25, combat medic, embedded with a Marine unit. Vincent Marrow was our squad leader. We were on patrol when we found a suspected insurgent. He wasn't armed, wasn't fighting, just scared. But Marrow decided he needed interrogation. Her voice flattened, removing emotion from memory. He took him into a building, alone. Told everyone to hold position. I heard screaming, went inside, found Marrow beating the man. Not for information, for enjoyment. I stopped him. Reported it. The investigation cleared me and dishonorably discharged him. But he says you lied, Maya whispered. He's been saying that for 15 years. Lena met her daughter's eyes. I didn't lie, but I can't prove it anymore. The witness, the man Marrow was beating, died in a separate attack 3 weeks later. My testimony was all the investigation had, and Marrow's spent 15 years building an alternate narrative. Ethan stepped forward, which he's now using to undermine everything you've accomplished. More than that, Patricia pulled up social media feeds. He's positioning himself as the victim, the wrong soldier destroyed by false accusations. It's resonating with a specific audience, people who already distrust institutional criticism. Lena felt the ground shifting beneath her. Everything she'd fought for, the settlement, the reforms, the justice, Marrow was trying to tear it all down, not with violence, but with doubt. And doubt was more powerful than bullets. What do we do? Maya asked. Lena looked at her daughter, then at Ethan, then at Patricia. We prove he's lying. How? Patricia shook her head. Your witness is dead. The investigation records are sealed. We have your word against his. Then we get the records unsealed. Lena's voice gained strength. And we find people who served with him, others who saw what he was. Someone else must have known. Ethan nodded slowly. It'll take time. We don't have time. He's controlling the narrative now. Lena paced, her combat training kicking in. Assess, adapt, attack. But he made a mistake. He showed his face. He went public, which means he thinks he's untouchable, which means he's gotten arrogant. Or he has protection we don't know about, Ethan countered. Either way, he's exposed. Lena stopped pacing. We use that. We track him. Find out who he's working with. Who's funding this, because someone is. Marrow doesn't have the resources to monitor your secure facilities alone. Someone's backing him. Trisha's eyes widened. The remaining Stellarian board members, the ones who weren't indicted. Follow the money, Lena said. Find out who's still paying Marrow. Prove the conspiracy goes deeper than Hutchins. Prove they're all complicit. Ethan was already typing. I'll get forensic accountants on it, but that's defense. We need offense. Lena looked at him. Set up another press conference. Tomorrow, same location. That's insane. He could try again. He won't. He wants me discredited, not dead. Dead makes me a martyr. Discredited makes me irrelevant. Lena's smile was sharp. So I'm going to stand there and dare him to prove I'm lying, in public, on camera, with the whole country watching. Maya stood. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Mom, Maya's voice was firm. He used me to threaten you. He put my face on that video. I'm already part of this. Let me stand with you. Lena wanted to refuse, wanted to lock Maya somewhere safe and face this alone. But she saw something in her daughter's eyes, the same stubborn determination she saw in her own mirror every morning. Okay, she said quietly, but you stay behind security, and if anything happens, you run. Maya nodded. Deal. Ethan looked between them. This is a terrible idea. Most of mine are. Lena met his gaze. But I'm done running. I'm done defending. It's time to make him answer for what he's done. The press conference was scheduled for noon the following day. But at 4 a.m., Lena got a different call. Patricia's voice was breathless, excited. We found something. Marrow's not as careful as he thinks. Lena sat up in the facility's guest quarters, fully awake instantly. What? His video statement, the one he sent to news outlets, he filmed it in a hotel room. Our tech team analyzed the background, reflections in windows, ambient sound, architectural details. They've narrowed it down to 3 possible hotels within 50 miles. That's still too many. Wait, there's more. Merrow's phone, the one he used at the hospital, it's a burner, but it's still active. He hasn't ditched it yet, and 2 hours ago it pinged a cell tower 4 blocks from one of those hotels. Lena was already pulling on clothes. Which one? The Continental, downtown. We've got surveillance watching the entrances. If he's still there, I'm on my way. Lena, wait for... She hung up. Ethan appeared in her doorway 30 seconds later, already dressed, already armed. I heard. We're taking a team. Just security, no law enforcement yet. Why not? Because if FBI shows up, he'll vanish. But if it's just us, just me, he might stay. Might want to gloat. Lena strapped on body armor that Ethan's team had provided. He thinks he's won. Let's confirm that belief. 20 minutes later, they were parked outside the Continental Hotel, a mid-tier business establishment with rotating clientele and minimal security. Perfect for someone who needed to disappear. Ethan's tech specialist had hacked the hotel's system and identified 3 guests checked in during the relevant time frame. One of them had paid cash. Room 847. Lena stared up at the building. He's in there. Probably, but we need confirmation before I'm going in. Lena, alone. If he sees a team, he'll know it's a trap. But if it's just me, showing up to confront him, she looked at Ethan. He'll talk. He won't be able to resist. And if he tries to kill you, then your team comes in shooting. Lena checked the weapon Ethan had given her. Compact, reliable, loaded. But he won't. He wants to humiliate me, remember? Can't do that if I'm dead. Ethan stared at her for a long moment, then handed her an earpiece. Open channel. We hear everything. First sign of trouble. We breach. Lena nodded and climbed out of the vehicle. She crossed the street, entered the hotel lobby, and walked past the front desk like she belonged there. The night clerk didn't even look up. She took the elevator to the 8th floor and walked down the silent hallway to room 847. She knocked. Silence. Then footsteps. The door opened a crack, security chain still attached. Vincent Merrow looked at her through the gap. For 3 seconds, neither spoke. Then he smiled. I was wondering when you'd show up. He closed the door. The chain rattled. The door opened fully. Merrow stepped aside. Come in. Let's finish this. Lena walked into the room where everything was about to end. The hotel room was sparse. Unmade bed, laptop open on the desk, empty coffee cups scattered across surfaces. Merrow closed the door behind Lena, but didn't lock it. He moved to the window, hands in his pockets, completely relaxed, like he'd been expecting this exact scenario. You're not wearing a wire, he said. It wasn't a question. I am. Lena didn't lie. No point. Ethan's team is listening. They're downstairs, ready to breach if you try anything. I won't. Merrow turned to face her. I told you, I'm not here to hurt you physically. That's too easy, too quick. Then what do you want? I want you to understand what you took from me. He gestured to the laptop. 15 years, Ward. I spent 15 years rebuilding a life you destroyed with one testimony. Do you have any idea what it's like to lose everything because someone decided honesty mattered more than loyalty? Loyalty to what? You beat an unarmed man for pleasure? I extracted information from a suspected enemy combatant. Merrow's voice remained calm. That's war. You knew that. We all knew that. But you decided to get squeamish, decided your conscience was worth more than unit cohesion. My conscience was worth more than covering up torture. Torture, Merrow laughed, a cold, bitter sound. You want to talk about torture? Try spending a decade working warehouse jobs because your dishonorable discharge blocks every decent opportunity. Try watching everyone you served with move on while you're stuck. Try rebuilding from nothing because one self-righteous medic decided she was the moral arbiter. Lena's jaw tightened. You did this to yourself. No, you did this to me. Merrow moved closer, his eyes cold. But I'm patient. I waited. And when Stellarian gave me a chance, a real chance to matter again, I took it. built a career, got promoted, had respect. Then you appeared on every screen in America, tearing down the company that saved me. So yes, Ward, I made sure you'd pay for it. By threatening my daughter. By making sure you'd never feel safe again. There's a difference. Merrill pulled out his phone. But here's the thing, I didn't have to do much. Just plant the idea, send the message. Make you wonder. Because that's what breaks people, Ward. Not violence. Fear. Through the earpiece, Lena heard Ethan's voice. We're ready to move. Give the word. She ignored him. You're right. Fear is powerful, but you made a mistake. What mistake? You assumed I'd break. Lena took a step forward. You assumed I'd run. Hide. Protect Maya and disappear. That's what you wanted. But I'm still here, and I'm not leaving until you answer for everything you've done. Merrow's smile faded slightly. You can't prove anything. My video statement's already shifted public opinion. Half the country thinks you're a fraud. Your credibility's destroyed. Is it? Lena pulled out her own phone. Because while you were hiding in this hotel room, Ethan's team found something interesting. Financial records showing payments from 3 Stellarian board members to your personal accounts, totaling $2.4 million over the past 6 months. Merrow's expression hardened. They paid you to monitor the investigation, Lena continued, to feed them information, to threaten plaintiffs into silence. Webb was just the beginning. You were the architect. She held up the phone. And now we have proof. That's not proof. That's numbers on a screen. It's enough for federal investigators. They're already moving on warrants. Lena took another step. But I'm not here to arrest you. I'm here to give you a choice. What choice? Confess. On camera? Tell the truth about what you did in Afghanistan. About what Stellarian paid you to do. About the threats. The intimidation. Everything. Her voice dropped. Or I walk out that door and let federal agents drag you out in handcuffs while every news outlet in America films it. Merrow stared at her. You think I'm going to confess because you asked nicely? No. I think you're going to confess because you're a narcissist who can't resist telling everyone how clever he thinks he is. Lena's smile was cold. You wanted me to know you'd won. You brought me here to gloat. So gloat on camera. Let everyone see what you really are. For 5 long seconds, Merrow didn't move. Then he laughed, a genuine sound this time, almost admiring. You're good. Better than I gave you credit for. Is that a yes? It's a no. Merrow moved toward the laptop. Because you're bluffing. If you had real proof, you'd already be gone. But you're here, trying to bait me into a confession, which means you need me to incriminate myself. I'm not bluffing. Then prove it. Show me these financial records you claim to have. Lena hesitated. Not because she was uncertain, because the records existed but weren't quite complete. Patricia's team was still working on full verification. Merrow saw the hesitation and his smile returned. That's what I thought. You've got fragments, pieces, but nothing solid enough to... The laptop screen lit up. An incoming call. Video conference. Merrow glanced at it, his expression shifting to confusion. He clicked accept before thinking better of it. Dr. Allison Cross appeared on screen, but she wasn't alone. She sat in what was clearly an FBI interview room flanked by 2 agents. Her eyes were red, her expression exhausted but determined. Hello, Vincent, Cross said quietly. Merrow's face went white. Allison, what are you... I'm telling them everything. Her voice was steady despite obvious fear. About the payments, the threats, the monitoring, everything you made me do. You're lying. I have emails, recorded calls, transaction receipts. Cross looked directly at the camera. I kept copies of everything because I knew eventually you'd try to destroy me too. Merrow lunged for the laptop, but Lena was faster. She pulled her weapon, the one Ethan had given her, and aimed it center mass. Don't. He froze. Through the screen, one of the FBI agents spoke. Mr. Merrow, we have a warrant for your arrest. Conspiracy, witness intimidation, obstruction of justice. I strongly suggest you comply with the officers outside your door. On cue, heavy footsteps sounded in the hallway. A sharp knock. FBI, open the door! Merrow looked at Lena, then at the screen, then at the door. His face cycled through emotions, rage, disbelief, calculation, finally landing on something that looked almost like resignation. You planned this. he said quietly. I learned from the best. Lena lowered the weapon slightly, but kept it ready. You taught me something in Afghanistan. About patience. About waiting for the right moment. About making people think they've won right before you take everything. The door burst open. Federal agents flooded the room, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Marrow raised his hands slowly, his eyes never leaving Lena's face. This isn't over, he said. Yes, Lena replied. It is. They forced him to the ground, cuffed him, read him his rights. He didn't resist, didn't fight, just stared at Lena with pure hatred as they hauled him to his feet and marched him toward the door. As he passed her, he leaned close. You think you're a hero, but you're just a woman who destroyed lives because she couldn't handle war. Lena met his gaze without flinching. I'm a woman who stopped a criminal, twice, and you'll spend the rest of your life knowing a medic you tried to break is the reason you'll die in prison. They dragged him out. The room emptied. Lena stood alone, weapon still in her hand, her heart hammering. Through the earpiece, Ethan's voice came through. We're coming up. Lena holstered the weapon and walked to the window. Below, she watched federal vehicles surround the hotel entrance. Watched Marrow emerge in handcuffs, cameras already swarming, reporters shouting questions he didn't answer. Watched him loaded into a transport vehicle and driven away. It was over. The door opened behind her. Ethan entered, followed by Patricia and 2 security personnel. They didn't speak immediately, just stood with her watching the scene below. Finally, Patricia broke the silence. Cross gave us everything. Emails, recordings, financial transfers. Marrow's lawyers will try to fight it, but the evidence is overwhelming. The board members who paid him? Lena asked without turning. Being arrested as we speak. The entire upper management of Stellarian is about to collapse. Good. Ethan moved to stand beside her. How do you feel? Lena considered the question. How did she feel? Exhausted, relieved, hollowed out, victorious but not triumphant, like a soldier after a battle, still alive but carrying new scars. I feel finished, she said finally, ready to stop fighting. You've earned that. Have I? She looked at him. Marrow's going to prison. Stellarian's destroyed. The settlement's paid out. Veterans will be protected. But none of that brings back the people who died waiting for justice. None of that fixes what's broken in the system. No, Ethan agreed. But it's a start. And sometimes that's all you can do. Start something and hope others finish it. Lena nodded slowly. She pulled out her phone and dialed. Maya answered on the first ring. Mom? It's over. Marrow's in custody. You're safe. We're safe. Maya's exhale was audible. Really? Really? Can I come home? Yes, but not to the apartment. That's not home anymore. Lena's voice softened. We'll find a new one. Somewhere safer. Somewhere better. Okay. A pause. Mom? I'm proud of you. Lena's throat tightened. I'm proud of you too, for being braver than any 14-year-old should have to be. I learned from the best. They talked for another minute, then hung up. Lena turned to Patricia. What happens now? Legally? Trials, lots of them. Marrow, the board members, Stellarian corporate leadership. It'll take months, maybe years, but the cases are solid. Patricia's expression was fierce. They're going down, all of them. And the plaintiffs? Settlement money's being distributed this week. Policy changes are being implemented across the entire hospital network. Federal oversight's mandated for 5 years minimum. She smiled. You did it, Lena. You actually did it. But Lena wasn't sure what it was anymore. She'd wanted justice, wanted accountability, wanted to make sure no other veterans suffered what she'd suffered. Had she achieved that? Partially, but the deeper rot remained. Systems that valued profit over people, corporations that exploited vulnerability, institutions that failed those who served them. It's not enough, she said quietly. It never is, Ethan replied, but it matters. The press conference happened 3 days later, not at Mercy Grove, at the National Memorial Hall where Lena had first received the Bronze Star. Full circle. The hall was packed, media, veterans, advocates, survivors. Maya sat in the front row, flanked by security but smiling. Ethan stood stage left, Patricia stage right, and in the center, at the podium, Lena Ward faced the cameras one final time. "My name is Lena Ward," she began. "4 months ago, I was a nurse trying to survive. Today, I'm standing here as proof that survival isn't enough, that silence enables injustice, and that one person speaking truth can start an avalanche." She paused, letting the room settle into attention. Vincent Marrow is in federal custody. The Stellarian executives who paid him to threaten and intimidate plaintiffs are facing charges. The system that allowed this to happen is being dismantled and rebuilt with oversight that should have existed from the beginning. These are victories, but they're not the end. She leaned forward slightly, her voice gaining intensity. Because across America right now, there are thousands of veterans working minimum wage jobs despite their skills, thousands denied promotions despite their qualifications, thousands exploited by systems that thank them for their service on holidays and forget them the other 364 days. This case exposed one company, but the problem is everywhere. The hall was silent, so I'm making a promise. This doesn't end with me. The settlement money I received, all of it, I'm using to establish the Ward Foundation. Its purpose is simple: provide legal support, job placement, and advocacy for veterans facing employment discrimination. We're hiring lawyers, building networks, creating resources. Her eyes blazed. And we're making sure that what happened to me never happens to anyone else. Applause erupted. Not polite, not performative, thunderous. Veterans stood. Advocates cheered. Even some reporters set down their cameras to clap. Lena waited for it to quiet. I didn't want to be a symbol. I wanted to be invisible. But invisibility is what they count on, what they need. So I'm done being quiet. Done accepting less. Done letting the system decide what I'm worth. She looked directly into the primary camera. And to every veteran watching this, you are not disposable. You are not invisible. You matter. And if someone tells you otherwise, prove them wrong. Speak up. Fight back. Don't let them make you disappear. She stepped back from the podium. The hall erupted again. But this time, Lena didn't walk off stage immediately. She turned to where 20 plaintiffs from the original lawsuit stood waiting. She gestured them forward. They joined her at the front, a line of people who'd been overlooked and undervalued and dismissed, now standing together, visible, undeniable. The cameras captured it all. The image would be everywhere by evening, Lena Ward surrounded by the people she'd fought for, all of them standing tall, all of them refusing to disappear. Patricia approached from stage left. "There's someone here to see you." Lena followed her gaze. At the back of the hall, near the exit, stood Dr. Allison Cross. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by everything she'd endured, but she'd come. Had walked into a room full of people who could have blamed her, and stood there waiting. Lena excused herself and walked toward Cross. The crowd parted automatically. When she reached the doctor, they stood facing each other for a long moment. "I didn't think you'd want to see me," Cross said quietly. "I didn't. A week ago." Lena's voice was measured. "But you testified. You gave us everything we needed to put Marrow away. That took courage. It took fear that he'd destroy me next. It doesn't matter why you did it. Matters that you did." Lena extended her hand. "Thank you." Cross stared at the offered hand, then took it. Her grip was weak, trembling. "I'm so sorry for all of it." "I know." Lena released her hand. "What will you do now?" "I don't know. Mercy Grove fired me. My medical license is under review. I might not practice again." "You will. Give it time. Let the investigation conclude, then rebuild." Lena's expression softened slightly. "We all deserve second chances, even when we don't think we do." Cross nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I hope your foundation helps people, really helps them." "It will, because this time we're not asking permission." Cross turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Lena watched her go, feeling something complicated and unresolved, but accepting it. Not everyone's story ended cleanly. Not every redemption was complete, but movement forward mattered more than perfect closure. Maya appeared at her elbow. "That was amazing." "Which part?" "All of it. But especially the part where you said we're not being quiet anymore." Maya smiled, her mother's smile, stubborn and fierce. "I like that version of you." "Yeah?" "Yeah." Maya slipped her hand into Lena's. "Can we go home now?" "We can go home." They walked out of the hall together, past reporters still shouting questions, past well-wishers trying to shake Lena's hand, past all the noise and chaos and attention. They climbed into a waiting car, Ethan's team still providing security until things settled, and drove away from the memorial, away from the cameras, toward whatever came next. In the back seat, Maya leaned against her mother's shoulder. "What's home going to be like? The new one?" Lena thought about it. Quiet, safe, normal. "You think we'll ever be normal again?" "No, but we'll be okay. That's better." Maya considered this, then nodded. "Okay?" They drove in comfortable silence for several minutes before Maya spoke again. "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be like you." Lena looked down at her daughter, this person she'd tried so hard to protect from her own past, her own battles, her own scars. "What part of me?" "The part that doesn't quit, even when everyone wants you to." Maya met her mother's eyes. "The part that fights." Lena pulled her daughter closer. "You're already like that. You always have been." "I get it from you." "Maybe, or maybe you're just brave on your own." Lena kissed the top of Maya's head. "Either way, I'm lucky to have you." They reached the temporary housing Ethan had arranged, a townhouse in a quiet suburb, nondescript and secure. As they climbed out, Lena's phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. Marrow formally charged with 15 counts, including conspiracy to commit murder. Bail denied. Trial in 6 months. "You did it." Lena read it twice, then deleted it. She didn't need the reminder, didn't need the validation. She already knew what she'd accomplished. Not because anyone told her, because she'd lived it, survived it, won it. Inside the townhouse, Maya immediately claimed the upstairs bedroom. Lena stood in the empty living room, surrounded by boxes of their belongings that security had moved while they were at the press conference. She opened one at random. Photo albums. She pulled one out and flipped through pages. Maya as a baby. Maya's first day of school. Maya at 10, gap-toothed and grinning. Years of ordinary moments captured and preserved. The life Lena had built from nothing after leaving the military. The life she'd nearly lost fighting to protect it. She closed the album and set it aside, then pulled out her phone and opened her contacts. Scrolled through names she hadn't called in years. Former unit members, people she'd served with, lost touch with. Let drift away because staying connected meant remembering things she wanted to forget. She selected a name. Sergeant Maria Reeves. Hit call. 3 rings. Then a familiar voice. "Ward? Holy hell, is that really you?" "It's me. I saw you on the news, saw everything. You're a damn legend." "I'm a pain in the ass who got lucky." Reeves laughed. "Same difference. What can I do for you?" "I'm starting a foundation for veterans. Legal support, job placement, advocacy. I need people who understand what we went through, who know how to fight systems from the inside." Lena paused. "Interested?" Silence for 3 seconds. Then, "Hell yes." "When do I start?" "Next month. I'll send details." "Ward?" "Yeah?" "I'm proud of you. We all are." Lena's throat tightened. "Thanks, Maria." She hung up and immediately called another name, then another. By the time Maya came back downstairs an hour later, Lena had recruited 8 former service members to the Foundation's initial team. People who understood, people who'd fought, people who wouldn't quit. "What are you doing?" Maya asked. "Building something." Lena looked up. "Something that lasts." 6 months later, the Ward Foundation opened its doors in a renovated office space downtown. Modest, professional, real. Lena stood in the lobby on opening day, watching people walk through the doors, veterans seeking help, volunteers offering support, reporters documenting the moment. Ethan attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony. So did Patricia. So did 15 of the plaintiffs from the original lawsuit, now serving as advisors and advocates. Maya stood beside her mother, older than her 15 years now, shaped by everything they'd survived together. A reporter approached with a microphone. "Miss Ward, how does it feel to see this dream become reality?" Lena considered the question. How did it feel? Like vindication. Like purpose. Like the beginning of something she should have started years ago but couldn't until the world forced her hand. "It feels necessary," she said simply. "This shouldn't have to exist. but it does. So we're making sure it helps as many people as possible. What's your message to veterans facing similar situations? Document everything. Speak up early. Don't wait until you're drowning to ask for help. Lena's expression was serious. And know that you're not alone. Not anymore. The reporter moved on. Maya nudged her mother. Look. Lena turned. Through the glass doors she saw someone approaching, someone familiar. She walked outside to meet him. General Ethan Caldwell stood on the sidewalk, looking healthier than he had since the grocery store incident. He smiled. Congratulations. You didn't have to come. Yes, I did. He gestured to the building. This started because I collapsed in front of the wrong person, or the right person, depending on perspective. It started because the system was already broken, Lena corrected. I just happened to be in the right place to break it further. Modesty doesn't suit you. Neither does fame. But here we are. Lena studied him. How are you? Really? Better, heart stable, retirement's boring, but I'm alive because of you, so I can't complain. Ethan's expression grew serious. I want to help. The foundation, whatever you need, funding, connections, advocacy, I'm in. You've already done enough. I've done the bare minimum. You saved my life. Let me help save others. Lena looked at this man who'd been a stranger 4 months ago and was now one of the few people she trusted completely. Okay, but I'm putting you to work. No ceremonial positions, real work. I wouldn't have it any other way. They shook hands, then walked back inside together. The foundation's first day was chaotic, phones ringing constantly, people sharing stories, volunteers scrambling to handle the overwhelming response. But it was good chaos, purposeful chaos, the kind that happened when something important finally began. By evening, when the last visitor left and the volunteers dispersed, Lena stood alone in the main office. She looked at the walls where they'd hung photos, veterans who'd overcome obstacles, succeeded despite discrimination, built lives after service. One wall remained empty, reserved for future stories, future victories. Maya appeared in the doorway. Ready to go home? Almost. Lena walked to the empty wall and taped up a single photograph. Her own service portrait from 15 years ago. Young, hopeful, unaware of everything coming. She stared at that younger version of herself and made a silent promise. I didn't forget you, and I won't let anyone else be forgotten either. She turned back to Maya. Now I'm ready. They drove home through the city, past Mercy Grove Hospital, now under new management with federal oversight, past the courthouse where Merrow's trial had concluded 3 weeks earlier with guilty verdicts on all counts, past the grocery store where this entire story had begun with one woman refusing to let someone die. At home, they made dinner together. Normal. Quiet. Safe. The kind of evening Lena had dreamed about during those desperate weeks of lawsuits and threats and survival. After Maya went to bed, Lena stood on the back porch, staring at stars barely visible through city light pollution. Her phone buzzed. A message from Patricia. Merrow sentenced today. 30 years federal prison. No parole. Lena read it once, then put the phone away. She didn't feel triumphant, didn't feel vindicated, just felt tired. Tired but complete. Like a story that had found its ending even though the world would keep spinning, keep creating new problems, keep demanding solutions. She'd been a medic who learned to save lives. Then a nurse who saved lives others ignored. Then a plaintiff who fought systems designed to silence her. Now she was a founder creating tools for others to fight their own battles. She didn't know what came next, but for the first time in 15 years, she wasn't afraid of the answer. Behind her, the door opened. Maya stepped out in pajamas, wrapping a blanket around herself. Can't sleep? Just thinking. About what? About how sometimes the worst moments lead to necessary changes. How getting fired forced me to fight. How fighting forced me to build something permanent. Lena looked at her daughter. About how none of this would exist if people had just treated me fairly from the start. Maya leaned against her mother. Do you wish they had? Treated you fairly? Lena thought about it. About the alternative timeline where she'd kept her job, kept her head down, kept surviving quietly. Where none of this, the lawsuit, the foundation, the national conversation, ever happened, where 400 veterans remained invisible and exploited and forgotten. No, she said finally. I wish they hadn't forced me to fight, but I'm glad I did. They stood together in the darkness, mother and daughter, survivor and witness, looking toward a future neither could predict but both refused to fear. Somewhere in America, another veteran was being underpaid, overlooked, dismissed. Somewhere, another person trained to protect others was being treated as disposable, but now they had somewhere to turn, someone who understood. A woman who'd been where they were and refused to stay there, who'd fought systems designed to crush her and built something stronger from the wreckage. Lena Ward wasn't a hero. She was something more dangerous. She was proof that speaking truth could shatter injustice, that one person refusing to be silenced could start an avalanche, that the woman everyone overlooked could become the person no one could ignore. And she wasn't finished. She was just getting started. Inside the house, her phone buzzed again. Another veteran reaching out for help. Another story needing to be heard. Another battle waiting to be fought. Lena smiled, kissed Maya's forehead. Come on, it's late. Tomorrow's a big day. Every day's a big day now. Good. That means we're doing something right. They went inside together, closed the door, turned off the lights, prepared for tomorrow's battles knowing they'd face them with strength earned through surviving yesterday's. The woman they'd tried to destroy had become the woman they couldn't stop, and she was never going back to being invisible again. The end.